Hi, this is Justin K. Thompson, one of the directors of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
This is Joaquim dos Santos, one of the other directors on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
And the Aramis to their Athos and Porthos. This is Kemp Powers, the third director of Spider-Verse.
Fancy reference. This is Christopher Miller, co-writer and producer of this film.
An official coffer.
That's right.
Yes.
And I'm Phil Lord, producer and co-writer. And welcome.
As we listen to the beautiful music
Yes.
of Daniel Pemberton and the
Back with a
Schrader-designed glitches.
My favorite thing about these glitches is the number of comic book references that got snuck into here. We made some of these logos look like famous issues of Spider-Man, actually.
Nice.
And that Lord Miller logo with where's you guys with the mustache. There we go.
There it is. Schrader, by the
Young.
way, one of the most mild-mannered compared to the wildness of his
For
art.
real.
That's true.
He also did these bumps.
Right. These were designed by the animation house Buck, inspired by Oscar Fissinger. And this whole sequence was like a combination of ImageWorks and Buck painting over animation that we gave them.
I just love that these shots changed up until the very end of
Yes.
Literally the last thing that got finished.
both the first thing we worked on and the last thing that
Yeah.
got finished. were
Yeah.
the
I think what
shots.
it does, though, is it was hard because we were trying to find the right rhythm to set the tone for the film, and I think we found the film so late that we found the tone and getting the rhythm just right. I don't know.
Right.
I think
And-
working on it up to the last minute actually kind of came together really well.
And then matching it to the drum beats and,
Not unlike how we made the entire film.
Pretty much.
Just no-look passes.
Yeah.
And that is
Those
Pemberton
little
playing
comic
those
book
drums,
panels
right?
were actually drawn by Jason Latour.
that's right.
One of the creators of Spider-Gwen.
Also, the reason this had to be done late was because it has a lot of footage from later in the film.
Yes.
It
that had to be
does.
painted and redone after it was finished.
Yeah, I suppose some of these shots couldn't have been done until the end.
Yeah.
Right.
Love her bandmates.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, Def Leppard.
I remember the bandmates going through quite the sort of rounds of making them very, very specific over time. They started out many different shapes and sizes, and they evolved into this.
Yeah, I think trying to make each one of them feel like lead enough to earn their time on screen, but not upstage Gwen, was a real challenge.
That's right.
Yeah, I love the character design on the Mary Janes.
And I love that Betty gets the first laughs of the film.
Yeah, I know. Wasn't she? Yeah, started. Yep, there
There
it is.
she
She
goes.
is.
So it's our first good look at Gwen's World, based on the designs of the comic covers with that sort of watercolor gouache painted style.
Yeah, I love some watercolor.
We had done some early tests where it was the city sort of coming down in watercolor, and I think it sort of evolved into this when she steps out into whiteness, and then the color fades in.
Yeah. Fun fact for those who don't know, Gwen's entire world is basically a mood ring. So, it changes based on the emotions that she's going through, what she's feeling in any given moment. See it more extremely in a bit, but it's really such a great concept.
Poor Peter. Just
I
getting
know.
picked on so much.
And being
By Ned.
no
By
powers
Ned.
is tough.
By Ned.
By an alt-world version of Ned.
That's Flash Thompson.
She calls him Ned.
That's true.
She
Ned
does.
Thompson.
She calls him. It is Ned. It's a alt-world Ned who created the lizard and then was eaten by the lizard. Almost.
Good lizard design. He looks
Yeah.
like a monitor.
This lizard, was it?
Ami Thompson.
Thompson, yeah.
Ami Thompson designed that lizard. Did incredible design.
Yeah, you wouldn't know he was humanoid if you weren't wearing a shirt.
That's the giveaway.
The shirt's the giveaway.
Right. It's a nice stretchy shirt. It's real.
Peter's voiced by Jack Quaid.
That's right.
I think it was really interesting challenge to find this, get the right tone with this death scene and not be too gruesome, not be too maudlin about it, but kind of came out really nice.
And it gives you a deeper appreciation for like what you guys had set up, almost just purely silhouette in the first one, right?
And this is our first Metro Boomin produced song, the Coy Leroy
Yes.
song that plays through the whole thing.
This is from the beginning. We knew we wanted to have these inspired by the comic book cover, these crazy watercolor transitions between sequences. And like Joaquim is saying, we started doing tests really early on. And this is one that I think 3 years before like 3 years ago, we started planning that one. And to finally see it come together after 3 years that's a pretty big moment.
And it was pretty fun to have J.K. Simmons in the booth for many different dimension versions of J. Jonah Jameson this movie.
Yeah, I think Shea Wiggum, who voices Gwen's dad, this is his first time doing VO animation in an animated film. Yeah, he was our newbie.
Yeah, he's a champion.
Yeah.
Put a lot into this. Came back, added breaths and little off-screen moments here just to make it feel as naturalistic as possible.
These are actually the first scenes we ever lit actually in Gwen's world, where we really started to figure out like what the watercolor on the walls moving and the painted look. Some of these scenes were done out of order, but definitely in this sequence is where we did a lot of our R&D to figure this out.
Like how to make the humans not feel like CG on top of a painting, but be integrated into the world.
And to not get overly simplistic, I remember one of the refrains was, make sure it still looks expensive.
That's right. That's right.
We said it all the time.
Verbatim.
And
it does.
And this thing coming up right here in a second, I think we did probably 70 or 80 versions of this to try and get it right.
Looks expensive to me.
It was very expensive.
The producer is happy.
I remember talking about Gwen's set here almost like a stage play. You know, we weren't literal with where everything was placed. Everything sort of moved around as needed to camera.
It's an interesting combination of being very naturalistically designed sound-wise and very expressively set up visually.
I hope people appreciate that penguin. We really put a lot of effort into it.
Why is it a penguin?
Spider-Gwen.
Spider-Gwen.
In the Spider-Ham world.
That's right.
Spider-Gwen is a penguin named Spider-Gwen.
Which is a joke from the comics, actually, for those fans out there.
This was an early
This is one of my
run through the
favorite
city
shots
to
of the
sort
movie.
of test out her swinging ability and her movement style.
This lived for 3 years.
It did. This one survived.
It-
Spencer Wan did a first pass on this. That was exquisite.
But the idea is that, you know, everything is messed up in her life, but this feels good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Swinging feels good.
And we were wondering whether that transition behind the billboard from day to night would work, and you don't.
Totally did.
Works
you don't-
great.
Yeah.
Hey, it's New York. Everyone's got their thing.
Yuri Watanabe, for fans of the comics, who is an important character, and also in the video game.
That's right.
Everybody on my signal! Look out for signs of Spider-Woman! Hey!
I love that she's got the voice.
Yeah, they all have to, if they've got to hide their identity from their dads, they always got to put on the deep voice.
That's right.
That's the voice I use in meetings with my superiors.
Sorry, oh, hey.
Let 'em
The
know.
thing that was cool
Somehow.
about this vulture is like Gwen has this very contemporary, modern look with this watercolor and very sophisticated, elegant, expensive techniques, and then this anomaly that shows up with the literal inverse of that, like the oldest drawings we could think of. These Leonardo da Vinci on paper kind of things.
What's the opposite of a modern art museum?
Exactly.
That's right.
And there was also like a lot of visual references to this character. We looked a lot at Royal Deluxe, remember?
Yes.
That puppetry company from France that do these giant 40-foot tall marionettes.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
This was like one of the hardest characters to
He's really
to finally
complex.
settle
We
on.
worked on him for forever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, shout out to Jeff Koons for
Yes.
letting us chop the head off of his famous dog.
And fill it with
much.
all
Those
sorts
little
of good
dogs.
stuff.
Smaller dogs.
This is basically a Jeff Koons retrospective throughout
Yes,
the museum.
it
We
really
get
is.
a lot of Koons in this.
Yeah.
He was a big inspiration for us for agreeing to do the movie in the first place, which is, can you take something old and turn it into something new?
That's right. We had conversations where Jeff Koons was so inspired. He told us by the first film and how many risks it took. I just thought that was like kind of crazy to have Jeff Koons tell us we inspired him.
Right. You're like, no, buddy, you got it wrong. You inspired us.
It was the other way around.
Yeah, he ended up writing the forward to our Art of book.
That's right.
That's right.
How surreal. 2099, ladies and gentlemen. Miguel O'Hara. This is, I just have to say it here so it's officially on record. This is my dream come true. This is muscle bound, tearing through walls. We call him property damage Spider-Man.
And I just have to say it so it's on record. Making fun of him was my dream come true.
Yeah, he got quite the upgrade, didn't he? I got to admit, I wasn't initially sold on his laser cape. Remember, for a
That's
long
right.
time, I was like, "Guys, do we have to have this cape?"
You were like, a cape?
That's right.
The cape.
Spider-Man doesn't wear a cape.
Yeah, but he does, and it works.
But I always associate this with Joaquim because he did the scratch voice, and he's easily the strongest of any of the five of us.
That's right.
Easily.
Right.
He's got a really interesting suit that's got that digital. It's a digital suit that stays alive the whole time.
Yeah, that was kind of fun to develop. It was really crazy, like trying to think of it as like his suit. Just again, we wanted all these spider people to be very different, and the idea that 2099 comes from the future. How do we say that even with his suit, since we're not going to see his dimension for a while? So we thought, let's make his whole suit made out of a technology that feels like a video screen, like it's digital.
And there's all of these great Mesoamerican patterns and
That's
stuff
right.
that we
Yes.
spent a lot of energy on that get revealed by the movement of his circuitry.
I think Chris Anka probably did at least 30 passes on what that meant.
It took him a year and a half to get an approved design.
That's right.
Like we were pretty thorough about it.
Huh, okay.
And the idea that this guy has hammer space and can draw his own equipment was pretty early on
That's right.
to make him. Because he doesn't seem like that potent. It's a guy that's like wood and paper and stuff. He has to have extra powers to make it worth having 3 spider people take him down.
That's right.
I thought it was fun to put the little editorial references. It's like for a comic book fan, like I am, just like little things like that, little details that do some of the lifting for us on the story that also feel native to the concept. That was fun.
I think with Hammerspace, we pretty much didn't have a choice because outside of us being a bunch of nerds, a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
People
What
were
the heck are
very
you talking
confused
about?
until we just wrote the definition on screen.
Honestly, it helped people out.
But we're overlooking the real story, Jessica Drew.
Jessica Drew, arrival of.
I love her. Issa Rae doing the voice.
Yeah.
She just steals the show. She's amazing.
Will you adopt me as like the greatest line ever, guys?
Will you adopt me?
Yeah, she comes in. Every person that enters this film, every spider person is cooler than the last one.
Yeah, exactly. It's true.
And I
You're
think
like, oh my god, that's the cool. Nope, here comes another one.
Even cooler, and I think that's by design because you want to set up the idea that this spider society is really cool. We got to
Yeah.
see it.
It's aspirational.
We
and
see
like,
what
look
Miles
at,
has kind of been.
Yeah.
He's been missing out on.
That's right.
This team that he doesn't get to
Yeah.
be a part of is awesome.
Do you want to talk about the Brian Stelfreeze and the inking style?
I will
Oh,
say
yeah.
also, Rick Leonardi here, I was really, on the close-up of Miguel, you can see specifically Rick Leonardi's hatching and the way he spots his blacks. Another sort of childhood checklist marked off there.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about is they developed a tool that would like generate the shadows and turn it into Rick Leonardo's line work. And we
right.
worked directly with Rick to develop that tool. And it was like a dream come true.
It's great to have Rick Leonardi and Leonardo da Vinci.
You got all the Leonards.
And then, Brian Stelfreeze was largely responsible for the look of Jessica Drew.
Yeah, and her hair squiggles that don't look like real hair, but look like drawn hair the way he'd draw it.
Yeah, he does these amazing pinup models and pinup images. I think it was he really leaned into his pinup work with Jess's design.
And he did like dozens of drawings of like how he does lighting and how he does shadows, and they built specific tools to make to put onto Jessica, onto her geometry that would emulate Brian's line work. Is kind of amazing, just seeing his drawings come to life.
This is where we see this version's Guggenheim is 40 stories tall.
Exactly.
Don't pay attention.
We apologize, New Yorkers, for our alternate
This
universe.
goes deep into the Earth's core, this museum.
It's an alternate dimension.
Yeah,
it is.
Earth 65.
It's got to feel right. It doesn't got to be right.
Exactly. That
Posty returns.
use of the Post Malone quote.
It's probably worth mentioning this was another sequence that we worked on for years. This opening sequence. We had way longer versions. We had way shorter versions. We sort of Goldilocks our ways right to this one.
And you can see this shot was intentionally a mirror
of the shot.
of the shot earlier when
at the prom.
we kind of purposely wanted to mirror so you felt like you were coming back for a second round.
Yeah, this is some of the first lighting that was finished on the film also, and I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what we're pulling off already. It ended up still being one of the most difficult types of environments to do, because every shot is like a bespoke painting that comes to life.
That wide shot, this wide
gorgeous.
shot is the first thing I remember being
Like,
lit. Going, whoa, in this world.
It is actually. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think that was a shot.
Do you remember there was a statue in the background here that looked like Bert from Bert and Ernie?
Yes, I do remember.
It just kept showing up.
It
We're
was
like,
so distracting.
And here you really see how this is where
drippy.
the idea that her world is this mood ring that reacts to their emotion, and here we let that really take over the entire screen in a way that's kind of been a dream of mine working in animation film for a while. Just being able to really truly use the medium as expressively as it possibly could be, so I think this was a big moment for us.
This is like, I said it I think the other day, this is like Dario Argento, like on steroids on acid,
real.
taking mushrooms.
I remember being shocked at how the audience did not remotely get bumped by the backgrounds changing dramatically from shot to shot.
Yeah.
Because we're following the story.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
it's augmenting the emotion of the scene.
But you don't think twice about it.
That's one of my favorite close-up shots of her.
Oh, such a
Just-
great performance.
Yeah.
We'll mention it a million times, but the animation performances in these dramatic scenes are so extraordinary, and you cannot believe how difficult they are
Exactly.
to
Be
pull off.
that nuanced and
That
observed, and not sort of just antic-y and iconographic.
Or boring.
That's right.
Yeah, huge shout out to our head of character animation, Alan Hawkins, and his team.
Just masters of their craft.
Absolutely, and a lot of help from Bob Persichetti, who
That's right.
returned
Exec
and
producer Bob.
really,
The Bob Father, I think he's known as.
This was a big ask. I remember like trying to figure out how much they can see, how many levels they can see through. Does that go on infinitely?
Yeah.
Do we see the sewer system? It was like, everybody relax. We just need to see if there's other people.
This was just fun to, we've seen portals in so many different movies, interdimensional portals, and trying to do it as a frame of art, almost do it as like a sort of art piece. This really dark, chilling moment between her and her father, both the one we just watched and this one. Of trying to find beauty in these moments and make those moments beautiful and not dark, like you might typically think, is actually like sort of like the goal of this movie.
Also, a quick shout out to Jeff Roubaix and his sound team for making a very cool sound, a very distinctive and sort of analog sound for the entrance of and exit of these portals.
Oh my God, amazing!
It only took like a year and a half for them to find it.
Yeah.
I am a sucker for a good cold open, and I'm so proud that I think we beat the length of the cold open of The Departed. With this film.
This is wait, the credits are on now?
Yeah.
It's been 20 minutes.
This one sneaks up on everybody.
I
like, whoa,
love
all right.
that we beat the cold open of The Departed.
Listen, we're coming for you, Scorsese.
How great are these things?
Yeah, they're awesome. Patrick O'Keefe, production designer and also tagger.
That's right. Former tagger, maybe current tagger, who knows?
Nobody knows. We got to
Questionable.
keep him out of prison.
He did all of the titles that use the big, where it says Brooklyn or 65 or Gwen's World. That's all his writing on screen. And he's responsible for all those Miles stickers and the sketchbook. That's all his drawing.
Turns out he's talented.
Very talented.
I love that we got the real Mother Shuckers oyster cart.
I know. It's like product placement right here.
Yeah. He's such an icon in Brooklyn these days.
Kemp is the official New Yorker
I know,
of
man.
Spider-Verse.
I love my borough. Love my borough.
And now special guest star
Yes, Ziggy Marley.
Ziggy Marley as Lenny.
I love the concept of a guy who looks like the Spot trying to wear a disguise.
Those
It
are
kind
just
of
stylish
pulls it
pants.
off. It was, you know, you
Yeah.
don't know.
It's one of my favorite understated gags in the movie.
This was probably one of the first things that I can remember boarding and trying to figure out how does this guy struggle with an ATM. And this lasted the entire that was like the first thing that the first gag that landed.
I love this little
Right.
piece of animation here. Watch it. He puts his shoulder
There
into
it is.
it.
I was really going for it.
The thing about Jason Schwartzman was that he would just riff and riff and riff and riff in these scenes and give you hundreds of different versions. It was a nightmare for the editorial team to catalog.
A blessing, a problatunity.
Yes, but it was really fun
Opportunity.
to sort of like try all these different little weird bits that he would and try and squeeze things in.
That squeak in his voice when he goes
Yeah.
high pitched is oh.
I just like he's such an off-speed pitch as a villain.
Yeah.
Right. Look at what he does with the cans.
I know,
So
he
he's
rolls
like
them
this
very well.
so
One of my favorite
That's very
things.
smart.
incredible engineer.
Very smart.
When the animators showed me that,
They're
really
like,
gets
that's very clever.
I lost my mind. It's great.
The M stands for machine.
I think
And that's true, guys. The M does stand for machine.
That's true.
So that is that right?
Yeah.
Someone watched the movie and was like, I did not know that about the
I
ATM.
know. I saw
thing
that. I was
ever."
like, I was bumped originally when we put in the footage of Jason saying ATM machine. I was like, he's a scientist. He would know that the M stands for machine. And then, so then the solve was, well, let's just have Miles call him out on it. That was the.
We meet again, Spider-Man.
But then it ends up being like a precursor to the chai
That's right.
chai tea thing.
So is that a costume?
Unfortunately for both of us, this is skin.
Oh, dang.
You see, I'm from your
We should talk a little bit about the
Spot's
look
design?
of the Spot.
Yeah. So you can see the blue line underdrawing of him because he's sort of unfinished in those places, and it was a really nice handoff between animation that would put his spots where they were supposed to go, and the effects team that would turn them into these like moving, roiling, ink spilling onto paper, little tiny cosmoses all over his body.
That's right.
This is
These
such an elegant way to show Miles had a growth spurt just in
Yeah.
that one beat.
Yeah.
That's
Because
right.
remember we were debating, how do we show that Miles had a growth spurt? Or
you
talk
go.
about it. And it was
Some
just like,
Post-it
boop,
notes.
How about
there
some
it is.
Post-its?
Post-it
Yeah.
notes. That's always the answer. All this like post-it note sketchbook stuff was actually done by Titmouse.
That's right.
They
Shout
helped. They
out.
gave us a big
Shout
assist on
out.
it in the last few months.
Yeah, they did.
I designed my new suit with some flowers.
Fly ambiance. Nice setup.
There will be a callback.
That shot was fixed on the second to last day of
That's right.
of the movie.
Which
That's all.
was
Just has
how
to
long
get
ago?
in before the premiere.
Yeah.
That's right.
And out.
This is our setup of Miles' power zapping.
There's no spoilers.
Listen, these people have seen this movie before. I
I
guarantee
mean, no.
it.
The first time they're watching it is with the commentary track.
the 40th.
There's a line from J.K. Simmons here that you can't hear underneath this, which is, Which is, I always liked the original Spider-Man. I always loved him, and I always said it. This
Here he
also
is
was
all
Titmouse
alone.
helping us with the sort of like time-lapse drawing background.
A friend of mine said one of the things they love about this movie is that people stop in the middle of an action movie and like look at the horizon.
It's true.
It's like the Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see exactly what you're doing there. Even though he turned
We had to remind people
Yes.
Uncle Aaron existed.
You know,
They
it's
had a-
been
they-
5 years since a lot of people saw the
Yeah.
first movie. They need to remember
Yeah.
Uncle Aaron was a prowler and he died. Somewhat important.
I
also
think a
that-
Jeff Loveness joke, this one, right?
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
that's right.
Oh, Loveness.
But I love the spot like as this idea that he's this work in progress. He's an unfinished product, and that's why he's got all these like sketch lines and blue sketch and just using story to tell like this, using the visuals to help tell the story that he's this untapped potential that Miles is kind of overlooking, and that was like the idea behind it. It kind of goes the two kind of went hand in hand. It's
And,
great.
It's a very important timeout just to tell you that Daniel Pemberton had a DJ scratch a goose sound for this scene.
Heck yeah.
The music itself is a goose.
Yes.
Is that little kid's voice Tyree now?
That is
For real.
Tyree
Tyree.
pitched up.
Tyree, production assistant extraordinaire and hero of the film.
Wonderful person.
Never stopped making me smile.
He also did a few other voices
Yes, he did.
of adults, as he is an actual
He's
human
a
adult.
grown human man.
And those gags survived from one
Those-
of the original animation tests we
Yeah.
ever did
Yeah.
of the
That's
spot.
right. Those were some day one stuff. Yeah.
I think we even cut back into the reels.
We did.
There's also the one of him trying to eat something, which sadly didn't make it into the film.
That's
Oh
right.
yeah, that was a fun
No
one.
time to see Spot stop to take a bite.
Shout
It's
out
the
to
first time you're-
Insomniac.
Oh, yeah.
First time we're hearing Genki's voice, and for those who don't know, that's Peter Sohn, a great Pixar director. For those who don't know, a lot of us in animation, we all know each other.
That's
we're all
right.
friends.
Small community.
Competitions for fans. We're all associates.
Yeah, it's exactly.
right.
It's a small community of people.
Not
who
the
are rooting
only
for each other.
animation director who lends a voice to this film, in fact.
That is true. We will point it out later when it comes. And this is the great Rachel Dratch.
Dartmouth alum.
Indeed.
I really love this counselor scene. I gotta say, it's one of those scenes that we kind of like tweaked throughout the process, and I just think these character moments, man, people sometimes take them for granted.
Yeah.
And this was a scene that I think really started just reminding me how much I love this family.
Right.
It's true.
Like
And
the-
when we
yeah.
showed this at CinemaCon a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, this was the thing that got the audience lit up.
Yeah.
You know,
It
You're
wasn't
like,
the action stuff.
Yeah.
they were like, yeah. But they like this
They like
family.
these moments.
family.
And I gotta
Right.
say, when we made the first movie, this family was indestructible. No matter how bad the movie was, they were great.
Yeah.
But I think that CinemaCon thing was also really instructive to us because that was a while ago, and it kind of like cemented the idea that we had to plant the movie in the family.
Right.
100%.
All the
doesn't-
other stuff was going to be around that.
The thing about this scene that's funny, and like every single scene in the movie, it was almost cut.
It was almost
Just about every sequence here was either like it was in, it was
It's
out.
like, oh, well, they have an argument at the barbecue
we
about
really
him.
need
Did we need
this?
2
Yeah.
arguments? But
real.
seeing that they care so much about their kid and him being his best self is really, really clear from this thing, and it's really funny also. So I think it like
and
And you guys were going through these sort of counselor meetings.
yeah.
Around this time, so you were like, I relate. I am deeply entrenched in this moment.
Yeah.
I just went through another one just a couple weeks ago,
There it
actually.
is.
It doesn't hurt when you've got Brian Tyree Henry
Oh my
and
God.
Luna Lauren Velez voicing it
great.
either. I mean, talk about 2 anchors.
yeah, the guys they just
the audience can't get enough of them.
Yeah.
A lot of the best dialogue lines here were actually ad libs by Brian Tyree Henry and Luna. Like things that they just said off the cuff that were so wonderful we had to keep them. Just his delivery.
That's right.
Fun fact for the folks listening too, one of the biggest debates that I think that lasted the longest time was what school did he want to go
Yeah,
to?
for sure.
And
Oh,
it
yeah.
finally ended up Princeton, but it
That's
was
right.
Columbia. It was.
We had a lot. It
When
went
I
a lot
say
of
when
ways.
you say it was a debate, I think it was more than that.
Yeah, there were some wars going back and forth.
It wasn't a war.
I mean, you know.
It was a very
Friendly
soft war.
disagreement.
Friendly
That's
disagreement.
right. There's a lot of
Yeah.
passionate people who
Very passionate people.
have a lot of strong opinions.
Some hair
Strong
scratching.
opinion about
matter.
where Miles should go to school.
But no
Fictional
one.
character
And no,
should go
did
to
we
school.
ever suggest him wanting to go to Dartmouth, even though you two
No
guys
way,
went there?
that's
No, that would have been so
Too
weird.
corny. Like,
That's
who
when
had,
it would have gotten weird.
No, we were talking about him going to like Oxford.
Yes, we did talk about
yeah,
Oxford.
like,
yeah.
but that really is quite far.
I also think what's so great about the counselor scene to me, though, is that it shows that Miles is this kid who's got these parents that really, really care about his well-being, and that they're to the point where they're almost like helicopter parents who are so concerned about what their son's doing, and meanwhile he's having to hide from them.
That's right.
And you sort of see the tension that causes with this whole family.
The conflict with the family is they love each other so much.
Yeah.
That's what's underneath all
But
of
that
that.
for a spider person, that is hard. We
Right,
were
because you're
saying.
keeping a big secret from a family that's close and intimate. And
Yeah. Peter can sneak in and out
Yeah,
as he pleases.
Aunt May does
he's
not
got
give a
an
damn.
old aunt who doesn't know what's going
Exactly.
on.
And I think
Is that you, Beauregard?
But I think you
It's
get,
Peter,
I think you get it from that scene, though, that they share everything and talk about everything.
Yeah.
And yet there's one thing he won't talk about.
Yeah.
I think that's why that scene's also great.
Free money.
Let's go, people.
That ATM again.
I know.
I love that the broken glass in the cop car was the most dangerous looking broken glass.
It
ever.
really does
was-
look quite terrible.
Yeah.
It's definitely not tempered glass
No.
like
No.
every other car
That's
ever.
right.
Yeah.
I think it's worth you guys talking, Chris and Phil talking about the decision to go from Jeff Davis to Jeff Morales.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Because he says Officer Morales, don't you think?
Yeah.
that is true.
I think we weren't the only ones. The folks on the comic side also
Uncomfortable
internet.
with the
felt
name.
that Jefferson Davis might not be the best name for a character,
Considering
and
US
retconned his
history.
name. And I believe in the comics, Jeff makes a meal of actually
Yes,
taking
he
Rio's
does.
last name. In this movie, we sort of let it happen off camera
Right.
without comment.
But we assume that same meal kind of happened. I remember
Exactly.
reading the comic, yeah.
But people just sort of assume that his last name is Morales
This
because
is
his
one of my
son's
favorite
name is
gags.
Miles Morales. So, they get confused. Like, wait, his name is Davis and his name is Jefferson Davis?
It's funny
like
'cause
Jefferson Davis.
I actually had a mythos that I filled in my own head to answer that question, and
Right.
it was that when Rio got pregnant with Miles,
Yeah.
they weren't together yet.
That is not even a mythos.
She-
That is the
That's
story.
actually
we look-
true.
Also,
Oh,
he would have been named Miles Davis, which would be a whole different.
That would have been a whole deal. Yeah. All right.
I just want to say we really overlooked one of my favorite things about that little run there, and I think Joaquim did such a great job with the board crew of like always getting character through action. That little run where they on their way into the collider and with Jeff on the ladder and trying to
Right.
talk to Rio while Rio's on the other side of the
right.
city and they're still arguing about their son. There's always character through all these shots, and we put a lot of effort. I think that's one of my favorite things that we accomplished in this movie is the action never seems to stray from character.
It's always it's character forward first. I mean,
It's
that's,
never stuff.
Yeah. And I like the idea that, there's a moment where Jeff gets to sort of choose to either take the leap into the portal or take the ladder. And 20-year-old Jeff would have definitely
not a
made
leap
the
of faith
but-
for him. Yeah.
This Jeff, he's going ladder.
Why did you create that, guys?
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines.
And that
in the
one
movie.
stayed.
All this black and white footage was also from Titmouse. Did an amazing job doing this sort of spot vision, is what we call them. Like,
Yeah. And pretty inspired by Sergio Topi.
That's right.
That was like some of the early inspiration that we looked
Yeah,
at.
for sure.
My face? My family won't even look at me. I made you into a hero. You made me into this. Look at me.
So this became pretty dang horrifying. Like this
Yeah.
started out, we modulated this from like completely goofy to horrifying, back to goofy again.
Back to Goofy.
back to him kicking his own butt.
That's right.
Good foreshadowing.
And we can see that hole looks a little different because it's the first interdimensional portal.
Way to go.
It It's a beautiful.
I love
painting
this
right
shot.
Yeah.
There's so many beautiful images that are like just like a silly joke.
there. Right. And they go by so quickly. You have to like watch the movie 20 times to really appreciate them.
And
That's a command to the audience.
we have a lot of daytime exteriors in this movie, and they all had to be a little bit different. And this one is so special because it's broad daylight, but it's not boring looking.
Yeah, it's super blown out.
I think the idea here was was so fun to kind of do in an animated film because it's so unusual. Is this broad, really bright light, but the idea that they're really, really exposed, but they're both talking about something they're not really talking about what they're talking about.
Right.
They're talking around and through each other, but they're both like in this like floodlight that you should be.
Yeah, you should have stuff between you if this sort of conversation.
Right.
And a relationship like this is like always under construction. It's always like there's like messy stuff from before that you're trying to build back up.
Yep.
You guys originally staged this at the water's edge.
There's the water's edge.
Yes.
Right at the
Yeah.
river.
And then we had this downstairs for a while, and we realized it just didn't have the same power. And so that's when we came up with this tarp.
Well, I
Sort
mean,
of
I love
like
that
having it
becomes
be
a-
at water's edge.
Yeah, it's like a proxy for the water. It's
It's
beautiful.
rippling in the sunlight.
And it's the idea of you getting like this, like you get to catch your breath and just appreciate the beauty of the relationship between these two people and how they're both like adrift, literally, symbolically, adrift on an ocean right now. And not sure where, he's not sure where his father's at. He's not sure where his son is.
Yeah. And it's a good thing Jefferson is becoming captain and not detective because he can't tell his own son's voice.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another element of this that I think is really cool too, like for people who don't understand the process, is that you make these discoveries sometimes when you do the transition from storyboards to rough layout.
Yeah.
Because when you suddenly have
For
to
sure.
build the sets,
Right.
you realize that the stuff that you boarded lacks continuity.
I mean,
And
we
you do-
worked that sequence
Yeah.
in camera like nobody's
Yes, I remember.
business. And the camera's in front of the line, behind the line.
Yep.
There's French overs. There's
Yeah.
regular clean. They're in order to keep it interesting.
yeah.
So this is the
so now-
spot dimension, and the idea that every one of these portals takes you to another dimension.
Pretty fun.
It's pretty fun.
This pocket dimension are based on the original comic of how he was created. And this
It looks so
animation
great.
is
I think
so
this looks
fun.
amazing.
Yeah. This next one is really interesting. That there was this kid named Preston Mutonga who's 14 years old who made a Lego version of
Our teaser trailer.
Yes,
our
of
trailer.
our
our
trailer.
second, yeah.
And it was so amazing. Like Kemp, you were like, we should get this guy to do something.
We actually did.
And we did.
And we did. So we like contacted him,
Yeah, we
and his
did.
parents were like, "Is this real? Is this some sort of fake thing?
This is a joke,
Is this
right?
a real thing?" And we're like, "No, really. We want to hire him to animate these Lego scenes."
How incredible is
and
that?
and he was like, "Well, I've got spring break coming up. I can do it over spring break." And then he did the revisions after he finished his homework
on,
on the weeknights after that.
That's one of my favorite things about this process was just that, like, there's so much noise around this film, but the one thing that we all had in common is when we saw his Lego recreation of the trailer, we all were like, yo, did you see that? How did this person...
And he's 14!
Yes, like...
But it's
Yeah, it's
also
pretty
like
amazing.
part of like the spirit of this film is just letting the experimentation and letting those things
Right.
that needed to be found, and being open to all of it. And I think if we had started off in a really stiff place, we never would have made such an amazing film.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
You'd never be like, "Okay, let's let a 14-year-old."
Yeah, let's let a 14-year-old help us.
And I love that, like, Miguel in this is like, you're one of our best. The Lego
Yeah.
Peter. He has no
funny.
compliments for anyone else
right.
except the
Just the
Lego
tiny Lego
Spider-Man.
He's got a lot of time for Lego Spider-Man.
Now the food here was like a big combo of different
Mm-hmm.
cultures of Jeff's family and Rio's family, and
Yes.
And Kemp, you had a lot to say about
and,
what was served.
And Octavio, Octavio Rodriguez, who's Dominican, and really made sure we
Had a
nailed
story.
the authenticity of a lot of these dishes.
Yeah, we had a great crew that was always willing to help make sure that everything was as accurate as possible.
Yeah. One of the things we noticed in our research is that the Avenue de Puerto Rico had Mexican bakeries
Beautiful.
dotted through it, so we made this a Mexican bakery.
And having grown up there, I can tell you that was not the case growing up.
100%.
Growing up, Brooklyn, it was Puerto Rican, Dominican, and the Mexican communities really didn't show up until the late 80s, early 90s, and then exploded in the city. But I never had Mexican food until I was an adult. It didn't exist in New
Still,
York.
New York
It's
Mexican
wild.
food is not as good as LA
Yeah, it's
Mexican
not.
food. But it's all right.
Yeah,
No offense,
there's a
New
few
York.
good spots. Yeah, there's a few good spots. We got sushi. They
Yeah,
got
you got lots of great things. Now Miles literally has 2 cakes. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
That's right.
Unless you bake 2 cakes.
One
and
of the
that-
things
See what
that
we
we
did there?
talk about all the time is a line from Elaine May, which is you can have your cake and eat it too. You just have to bake 2 cakes.
And that's what we always try to do with our movies, especially this one. I feel like we have 3 cakes
I think
in
there's
this movie.
14 cakes at all times.
There's a lot of
happening with
cakes
one.
in this film. It's dense. It's dense. It's a dense, thick cake, flourless chocolate cake. There's that kid, the creepy staring kid from the first movie.
There he
He's right
is.
there.
He's back, baby.
Got to give a shout out to Jeff's shirt. That shirt was one of the. We did so many
There was a
costume
big-
explorations of Jeff's gear in this scene, and we finally settled on this shirt.
Yeah, Kemp Powers, president of shirts.
I love my shirts, man.
It is true. You do.
does
had
have
to be a-
snazzy
That is the
shirts.
thing about you.
It had to be a shirt that I would wear.
Exactly.
He always,
Oh,
he
I
always
see
has the
yourself
best
in this
shirt.
character.
Yes,
I see.
exactly. In my mind, it's Lacoste, maybe Ben Sherman. You know what I mean? Like I've got some brands I'm throwing in.
I love it.
The 90s are back, baby.
Indeed. He stitched off the little alligator
Yes.
because he didn't want to be too brand focused.
Lacoste is coming back.
Performance here is
Yeah.
bonkers. Those little asides between the two of them, just insane. I love this too. He gives the little slap, the little hand clap.
Yeah. And
Single
he's like,
hand
and he
clap.
brightens, he's like putting it on
Yeah.
for his friend.
Yeah, you can't let them see that you're frustrated with your kid.
I remember you giving a big pep talk for this one, Phil. How does he get up these steps? Does he walk upside down up the steps? What does he do, guys? He doesn't just walk up steps.
No, Spider-Man doesn't walk up steps.
No.
No.
And this, I have to say, was the saga of all sagas.
Very, very
super long
long
shot.
oneer.
This long
The
oneer,
oneer.
this thing is 5 times as long as the actual rooftop, especially when they're walking back the other direction.
100%.
Yeah, and
There's a couple of cuts in here that we couldn't avoid. Here comes one of them. We tried really hard.
Did you even see the cakes? There's some heartfelt
The joke needed to be the joke.
Yeah.
but yeah, with doing a long oneer like this with hundreds of background extras animating also is like a massive, massive job.
It took a year.
Yeah.
It took a year. Yeah.
Cutting through tables,
Oh, and this is great. One of our first really awesome cameos.
Oh,
She
yes,
should be popping up. Yeah, Luna
Luna's
Lauren
sister.
Valerius has a twin sister who he decided to cast as her sister in
That's
the
right.
film. That was a great recording session to bring them both in.
Yeah.
But I love this scene because it's a continuation of the helicopter parent thing
right.
and their concern for him, but also showing that his family isn't just his mom and dad. It extends to this entire community of people and extended family that are all rooting for him. That he has his home is Brooklyn and that all his family lives there. So, kind of really I think we did a good job of setting up what Miles is trying to save.
That's right.
By the end of the film, there's a lot at stake, and you see it in the scene how many people are at stake.
As I was watching these reels, we'd get these cuts sometimes and watch them down at home. My wife constantly said, they felt real in the first one. They feel really real right now.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much great observation that was done by, so many.
Yeah, and what they're expressing is like every generation of our family has led to you.
Yes.
Yes.
No pressure.
So it's not your life.
Right.
It's our life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For how long? A month. Dad, Mom, are you
I love that him just saying whatever triggers them because
I
it's
know.
like
Their
you do
look
not
off of
get that
whatever.
tone with your
Uh-oh.
mother.
Uh-oh.
Nope.
No, do not say whatever.
Puerto Rico's coming out.
Yeah.
And I love that that moment made them like a real family. It's not just a cartoon family that doesn't ever have conflict. They have conflict out of love, for each other.
And now here comes
One thing I like is that no one ever said on this production that we wanted to capture the spirit of Brooklyn.
Brooklyn's like a character.
I never want to capture any culture ever again.
And here's the beautiful song Hummingbird.
The Metro with James Blake.
That's right.
Best singers.
I mean, a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
The song
It's
is
gorgeous.
really carries you through this emotional.
I also think like Metro was surprised of all the things that he sent over.
That we
That
were
this was
so
the thing
into
that
this
we were
one.
so fired up about.
Yeah. I
The
think we
most
fell in
musically
love with it.
sophisticated thing.
And I like that we got a chance to make a meal of this. We talked a lot about those like Amblin moments when it's like something extraordinary is beginning to happen way before the character
yeah.
takes
Right.
note of it. And it was because there's yet again something that almost got trimmed way down.
Right.
But we decided to just like live in this
The
moment
build
a lot more.
is the moment here.
Yeah.
You got to build it.
And it took us a while. I mean, that original teaser we did, there was
Yeah.
a whole different version of
That's
this
right.
with
Yeah.
totally different
He had
animation.
tiny whiteys that were
So
stuffing
I mean,
under his pillow.
Fun fact, Miles' jersey in his dimension,
Oh, yes.
the Knicks are the Brooklyn Knicks. And on the back, and a shot, blink and you miss a shot, you'll see that he's wearing a God Sham God jersey, who's the godfather of the crossover dribble
That's
in New
right.
York street ball. So
And in this dimension, the
He was
Brooklyn Knicks' most famous player.
is God Sham God. I'm so happy that I could die happy just having that God Sham God jersey on him.
We made some of these.
Yes. We got to send one to God Sham God. Ooh. We really do.
Memo.
Yes.
So Gwen shows up and we can see her hair is longer than the last time we saw her. And then
It hurts. It hurts me to see that, guys.
Rip open a
Stings.
package.
Yes.
I love these extra drawings we did.
This was the late ad adding more drawings, so
Oh
she
my
really
God.
gets it.
Not
just
obsessed
kills
at all.
It just
Yes.
twists the knife
Yes.
deeper still.
This is the first time seeing these two together, and the way we aged up. I'm so impressed by like how we aged up both of these characters.
Yeah.
The thing that
and
will
evolved
shock you
them.
is if you go back and look at the first movie and look at Miles.
You're like,
Yeah.
what a baby!
What a baby! I know.
A child. How do they let him go outside and swing around?
But that's how
He's
growth
just a
spurts
child.
work, man. When I started on this film, my son was the same age as Miles. My son,
yeah?
who's in college now.
Oh my god!
Whoa.
And so he had just squirted up like 4 or 5 inches on me, and he was
Amazing.
my height.
I know. My guy
Incredible.
went from 3 to 7, and he's like telling me things now that I don't know. It's the weirdest.
You gotta love it.
When left her sweater,
Oh,
he had a girl in his room.
Dead.
Dead.
Dead. That's it.
this is such a fun sequence. This
Yeah.
is like basically set up to be this game of horse between
Yes.
At one point, they literally played horse.
Yes.
between Miles and Gwen, just like, and it's awesome because Gwen hasn't seen Miles either, and she's been thinking about him, and he gets the idea here is that she gets to see that he's also not who he also has leveled up since the
right. Yeah,
last
yeah,
time
He's grown
she
up
saw
quite a
him.
bit.
Exactly. Storytelling through action. You know, now we know that they're equals.
That's
the
right.
Last time she saw him, he was barely competent, and look at him now.
He's hanging. I love too, though, that his personal style is still kind of wild. It's not refined. He's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
sort of loose
He's-
and gangly.
It's like naive, but
Right.
but good.
Yeah, it's
Right.
it's in the way that like a parkour performer doesn't move like a gymnast, like a hard trained gymnast.
right.
It's
Yeah,
really
she's
hard.
more balletic and graceful, and he's more flair.
Freeform, yeah.
Yeah. Right, like a skateboarder or something. Right.
So this guy intentionally, for those looking for Easter eggs, and designed to look like the Bodega Bandit.
There he is.
Yeah, there he is.
Oh my gosh, you would love him. He lets me crash in his dimension sometimes.
Shout out to the sound mixers and the sound team for like dealing with a scene where they're swinging, talking, there's a song,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? And there's hard effects.
Amazing.
Guillermo Martinez with the old kid licking the glass
There you
joke.
go.
But you
Love
know,
this
the other
shot.
thing that those guys did is they made different thwips for each character.
Yeah.
And Miles'
wild.
thwip from the last movie to this one, they made more mature.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mature thwips.
All right, here you go. You can see our
Oh, here's a little shout out to our Oscar-winning buddies.
who made a certain film. If you look
Coming
at the
right up.
billboard,
Blink and you'll miss it. Here it comes.
right
A lot of wind up here.
there at the
There.
top.
Dang.
Always
all
on
of it,
the-
always all over the place. The hit musical.
See, it's a bagel.
Hi, Daniels.
Bagel themed billboard. See, for irony's sake.
This is a cool thinking.
One of my favorite sequences in the movie, just to get to slow down and appreciate the beauty
Almost
of
got cut.
these two
Another
people.
sequence that almost got cut.
Everything almost got cut.
And this location has a lot. I mean, Brooklyn nowadays is
Yeah.
full of skyscrapers, but growing up, what was then called the Williamsburg Bank Tower was like the tallest building outside of Manhattan. Now it isn't anymore. So it was really cool to kind of recreate a version of this iconic structure
Yeah.
in this film.
And I
Love
think-
this location.
And I
Love
think
this shot.
Gorgeous. I mean,
It's just still very magical.
you see this on a big enough screen, you do get
You get a
dizzy.
little-
You get
yeah.
like a little whoa.
Yeah.
and you
In
know,
this shot.
Yeah,
And we
this
always-
this is the one right here.
we always think about like, yeah, we want them to be relatable and do these normal things that normal teenagers would do, like sit and talk to each other in front of like the skyline. But how would a spider person do that? And kind of just created these visual opportunities that are just kind of beautiful.
And we staged them all over this thing.
Oh man,
They were in the arch.
Yeah.
They were on top of the thing, and then built out these structures for them to really, literally, hang out over
just
the
so
city.
that all their overs and everything could have that upside down city in
That's
it.
right.
So beautiful.
When we were talking about that mood board thing, guys, remember I was saying like something I found myself thinking about a lot during the scene was like Cameron Crowe, like say anything. This
Right.
idea of the young guy like appealing to the girl,
Right.
like Miles is my Lloyd Dobler right now,
Right,
and
right,
she's
right.
dying
For
in court.
real.
That's
For
right.
sure.
You know, and what's interesting about this scene, it's like from a camera point of view, it's like we're hopping the line like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We go behind them, we go in front, and it all kind of works because you're held by their conversation.
And they're held by the spider sticky butts that they
Yes.
have.
Right.
Right.
We were sort of joking that a big expensive decision was just getting Gwen's hair in a ponytail to
Yes.
react to gravity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one caused a little bit of panic when it was first suggested.
I don't think most people realize that one of the most difficult animations in these films is the taking off of masks.
Yeah.
It actually is.
Like
yeah.
removing a mask is a mother.
Pain in the bottom.
We do it fast usually.
I just got to say, what film takes its time like this? What animated film?
Yeah.
This is just beautiful.
It's challenging, especially when, there's a lot of cost
Yeah.
in being this long. But, the truth is, like, the audience, this is what they want.
Yeah.
This is the stuff they like the best and remember the most.
Yeah, we can't go keep on saying that this is cinema and then cut everything cinematic for the, so
Right.
I'm really happy that we did this.
The other thing is, like, a shout out to you guys for, like, you made, like, several sequences that take place over the course of an afternoon. And each time, and you'll see, sometimes within scenes, the light in the sky
Gets
changes.
darker and darker and darker.
I think the idea was just like you start with him in the morning and you see him wake up over Brooklyn. You get a tour of the city that he's protecting, and then you go through his whole day. And the idea is like Gwen brings all the color back into the world after he gets grounded. And then when she leaves, she takes it with her. And there's this little glimmer of hope still out on the horizon, and he wants to go after it, but he knows he's grounded, and his parents have asked him to stay there. And then when his mom gives him that permission, it's that heartbreaking kind of scene that we have coming up.
Yeah.
It was all just to sort of lead us to that moment.
That's right. And this character performance, just unreal.
Amazing.
Like Rio and Jefferson working their way into this spot. It's
And
ridiculous.
Jeff bonking his head in the background.
You must mean Lieutenant Morales, soon to be Captain Morales.
Ah, Captain.
I actually love that.
Wanda
I love how awkward Gwen is.
friends from school.
It's the only time you ever see Gwen
Like
not
fail.
poised.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
like that's what I
Uncomfortably
love about
fail.
it.
Yeah.
She's like really, as Spider-Woman, she's
Right.
so perfect.
So cool and confident.
Yeah. You also set up that, her relationship with them could not start in a worse place.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then she give the handshake.
Brutal.
The handshake goodbye is a tough goodbye.
It hurts.
It's like she's panicked.
Yes.
What do I do?
Yeah. But it's worse for Miles, I'd say.
Yes.
I'd say that's true.
And you can see here, she takes the light with her. There it goes.
This take from Miles right here,
Amazing.
I've been on both sides of this equation.
Yeah, this is a mom job.
I got to get to the party, so
My God, Jeff's like so relieved going down those steps.
You're gonna make this all better, right? Okay, great.
I hear you being quiet, Mom.
There's the chicken's getting burnt on the.
yeah, I got to go.
No one my age says those words in that order, Mom.
It's just.
If you're into symbolism, him looking out at the city, like the idea of all this potential and excitement that he doesn't get to be part of.
The light is dwindling, though. Look at it go.
The
Basically,
light's
this
going.
scene is the thesis of our
That's right.
entire
Yeah.
film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're running out of time, right?
And that first big trailer was cut to
To this,
To
which
this.
was the
Kemp's
Kemp's
idea.
idea. Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, this speech was mostly written by Mr. Phil
Yes.
Lord, based on experiences.
Yeah, cribbed from a friend of mine whose mother talked to her this way and said, dear, you got to take care. You see this little girl in this picture of you? It was her as like a 5-year-old. It's like, that little girl deserves to live in a clean room.
There you go.
I did not expect that punchline.
Like it's like twists around. Like, oh no, it's sincere.
But it was
as
like,
now.
but the idea that like your parent and you are co-parents of your young self.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's your job to help your parents continue their great job of keeping you healthy.
Nice girl.
I might be stealing that one for future needs.
Mhm.
It's not a trick.
But she's sort of quite prophetic in her speech here. Like she warns him of all the things that are going to be happening to him in this movie and what's actually important.
We were lucky in that, we did a lot of our recording remotely, but I got to go to New York and record this in person with Luna, and she got really emotional. Like
Yeah.
Luna broke down into tears recording this.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think parents can really relate to this.
Yeah.
For sure. These painful moments when you have to kind of give your child, let him kind of go out on his own and
Make their own mistakes.
make their own mistakes.
you know it's gonna
So
happen.
painful.
Yeah. It's a
Happens
tough thing
to
for
every
a parent.
parent.
It's a tough thing for a parent to do is let their kid make their own mistakes.
Fail. Yeah.
You really want to protect them from feeling bad at any point in their life, but the only way they can grow is to figure it out.
Whenever people ask me that, I always say this is my favorite scene in the film.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the most bombastic or doesn't have the most action or craziest color, but it just makes me want to watch the whole movie.
And Luna even gave us a little thing to add in here. Remember, after we kind of workshopped it and tried it a little bit,
Oh, yeah.
we forgot one little element. Remember, Phil?
There it is.
Yeah.
La bendición, which is, in several Latin American cultures, the way that people say goodbye, which is they basically ask for a blessing and the parent gives it. For a lot of Puerto Ricans, it's done in this very specific way, which is like kind of by rote, a way of saying goodbye. And Luna texted me after the trailer came out and said, I forgot to do La bendición. My mother's going to kill me. We have to put this in the movie.
Or I die.
Right.
Amazing.
Shout out to Luna's mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Another great song featuring Sway Lee.
Yes.
And just as Miles watched Gwen take the color and the light with her, Mom watches Miles take the last light with him.
Last bit of light. And then we go Spider-Verse.
There you go.
Yes.
What a really very crazy thing about this movie is the first act is about an hour long.
Astounding.
It's a long first act, that's for sure.
People say they want to break the
We
rules.
have a
It's not
20-minute.
we
as
did it.
easy as you think.
I like to think that this film
It's a 20-minute cold open.
It's an
Yes.
hour and 59-minute film with a 20-minute Gwen short at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's a good way to look at it. So this idea was super, super fun from the beginning. The idea that his power Swiss cheese the entire building. You have all these shots that look through holes, through holes, through holes, and told the story of the origin point almost from the beginning.
Right, it's a fun cinematography opportunity for shots like this.
One thing that is will never be understood on screen is we actually built this entire set complete, and then we actually put holes in it. and
That's pretty amazing.
And we actually built all the walls because there's actually holes going through several different rooms.
Right.
Of other apartments in the background,
And it goes through like the stairway in the indoor stairwell.
Yeah.
It keeps going.
I gotta say, watching this scene almost gives me a panic attack because of how challenging it was in layout.
Oh man,
I just remember
it was hard.
Hey, by the way,
This
the
all-
early version of this, the wrap up to this was in a completely different location.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
both
yeah.
swang to a different.
This, I mean, we called this Orange Doonesbury because the storyboards were very confusing.
That's right.
To
Decipher.
some folks that were like, "What was that thing that looked like Orange Doonesbury?" We're like, "What are you talking about?" Like, "Oh, that was a hologram of what the spot did earlier." And they're
Right.
like, "I was not following
That signaled like a clear shift in mood when we were sort of meeting about it. It was like, then the film got orange, and we were like, uh-oh, it got orange.
Replay complete. No, why?
It works so beautifully now, you'd never know.
Right, like it's very clear. Like we
Yeah.
also had to like put in the thing going like, show me what happened, replaying footage,
right.
like making it extra clear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jess shows up. It's great because this establishes how Jess has really been in like a mentor role for Gwen.
And we got these guys together to do the
Yes.
scene, and it really brought it to life. You know, two sisters in an argument.
Fun fact, at one point in an early version of this, Cosmic Spider showed up, and he couldn't help out because he was busy saving some parallel dimension from collapsing or something like that.
That's right.
There were a lot more spiders in this scene.
That's
for a
right.
I
while.
think we're releasing that deleted scene, right?
We are.
Facts.
We're probably
Yeah,
on
yeah,
this
'cause
very
on this very Blu-ray.
thing
Yeah,
that
it
you're
was-
listening to right now.
Yeah, you got to check that
Yeah, the
deleted scene
hologram.
out. That was in place of what you're watching right
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
Good plug.
Good plug.
But don't watch it until after.
Yes.
you
Yeah.
finish.
Yeah.
You
You
might
don't
be
no
confused.
spoilers.
You said he was the villain of the week. Do you know how bad this is?
When I watch a film, I watch the deleted scenes first. Fun fact.
Just to try to understand them out of context.
Well, but I don't want to be disappointed. Just watch them after the film.
It's a great strategy, I think.
If Miguel finds out, I'd like
I love that the tech, Miguel's tech, again, it's sort of constantly sort of redrawing itself and rescanning itself, and it feels like it's sort of playing in the future, but it's already setting up that it's this sort of retro vision of the future.
Yeah, it is. It's like late 70s, early 80s tech.
Yeah,
It's
But
also like,
really
how good a signal can you
sophisticated.
get across dimensions?
that's right.
Right.
alert the local spider. Tell him Gwen will meet him.
I'm
there.
on it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I promise you.
You're
I will
welcome.
not.
Shut up.
Yeah, Issa saying "shut up" was an ad lib. That's one of the great
That's
things
so
when you finally get them in the room
perfectly
together. All right, shut up.
Shut up.
It was just it's weird. It's the warmest shut up of all time.
Yeah.
This is how we knew the scene was going to work. Because this, in storyboards, however messy Orange Doonesbury was, this moment was so
This
special.
landed. And there were versions of this where he was clear and had made himself.
Yeah,
present
he
to
had
her.
made himself visible. They had a like goodbye scene in person, and this
Yeah.
was much more heartbreaking.
This is
Yeah,
heartbreaking.
this is really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it's an homage to.
Yes, and getting the timing just right, just as he moves forward.
He's
she moves.
about to
Yeah.
do something, and then he hesitates, and he's too late.
Yeah.
More heartbreaking. Turn the knife.
We've all had that experience of
Love
turning
that shot.
visible just
One moment too late. Who can't relate?
I love the opportunity, the light fading behind him having to choose between the two portals, his home and his own destiny.
Do it.
Boom.
Do I stay
You should
home
do
or I
a
go
cut of the
after
movie
Gwen?
where he stays home and then it just says the end.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That was the end of that
He
movie.
buys some new cakes. He goes home, and
It's only 88 minutes.
and now it looks like you're going into the river, but it's not a river.
It's not a river. It's more city.
It's a
It's
canyon.
more, it's a canyon. The idea of Mountbatten that it goes deep down into crevasses.
So a million different versions of this entry done as well. I mean, this one went on for years and years and years, but I love how sort of narrow and how big this thing opens up almost immediately.
real.
Just keeps you guessing.
And it's based on the Indrajal comics from India in the 70s and 80s that look basically like this, but in 2 dimensions.
Yeah.
I'd argue this is probably the most dramatically reworked section of the entire film.
Well, the intro of Pav especially,
Yes.
because, we had a version of Pavitra and a bunch of our crew members, animators mostly that were of Indian descent, sent us a message going like, we think Pav can be better, more specific, cooler, more aspirational.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when we had a Zoom with them and listened to them tell us what they were hoping for with the character, and then we put together a round table with a bunch of Indian and Indian American writers and did a day just sort of how could we make this more specific, make him cooler and more interesting. And this new Pav intro came out of that.
Yeah, I mean, you...
a day later.
Yeah, well, you guys did a day later,
We did a
24-hour
24-hour rewrite
that
based
was
on all the great ideas that
the
came from
mother
the
of
thing.
all rewrites.
Yeah, and because it was pretty deep into the process.
Yes.
And he became such an amazing
God.
character. It went from a scene that people liked to a scene that people loved.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
it's so much more specific and based on real observation, and he's such a fun character, and it goes to show you that when you have a crew full of many smart people, if you can listen to them and
Good
get
ideas
the best
can come
ideas
from anywhere,
right.
man.
They
Yeah.
just get better.
And it was great to have Karan Soni, who voiced the character, be in that
Yeah.
creative session.
Right, he's a writer also,
Yes.
and so he was great and helpful in that way.
A lot of people think that filmmaking is like telling people what to do. It's really just listening.
Yes.
I was just stoked that we had this thread that would sort of blow up every once in a while, and we pitched out the idea. What if he has sort of he doesn't shoot webs traditionally. It's more of a yo-yo toy fun
Right.
thing. And the answer was, give it a shot.
Let's go for it.
It's always you try to say yes, right?
Yeah. But it's also just you've seen everyone shoot webs. It's
Yeah.
it's a interesting twist on it.
Yeah, he's a dramatic redesign from the comic book version of Pav.
Yeah.
Which was basically a normal Spider-Man costume with pants,
Aladdin
with
pants
Aladdin
on.
pants.
Right, yeah.
And we kind of started from square one. We wanted to do an original design.
Yeah. It was a lot of different versions, and the thought to leave his hair out was hotly debated, but I think it ended up looking awesome.
Oh, it's amazing. I have little cousins that are in their teen years, and they saw the film and said, "We want his phone number."
Yes, that's what you want.
Absolutely.
I definitely was
handsome.
in the flock of seagulls camp from the beginning.
Same as saying bread, which is the same as saying chai tea. Oh, I love chai tea. No!
We've changed chai tea forever.
All right. That's
right.
good.
Good. Let them know.
The point is to educate the
That's
masses
right.
while entertaining.
This is great, how Spot's uses his powers in that kind of using inertia and physics and that
Yeah.
And he's keeping
video
them
game
off,
portal
yeah.
way. It's such a great upgrade, and
It really is.
how he uses his powers in this sequence.
Again, it's sort of story through action. You get to see him actually using his powers versus talking about how he's using his powers.
How can you guys even concentrate? Hey, does he know about Hobie?
What should I know about Hobie?
Oh, looks like he did not know.
I know. We stopped making comments and just started enjoying.
Yeah, because
the
he's
film.
so entertaining.
gotta
It's
love
such
it.
an entertaining sequence now.
I love this moment too, where he's just sort of selectively.
Yeah,
boop,
you get
boop,
get
boop.
out,
To
get
the
out,
beat.
get out,
Yeah.
yep, get out, get out.
And
Well, you just see that he's leveled up. He's definitely not the guy
not the clumsy
not the
guy.
clumsy work in progress.
He's so much more than a villain of the week.
Exactly.
I called you that, okay? You're a great villain.
We had an early meeting with one of our story artists, Winton Redmond, before he even knew who the villain was. And I had a beer with him, and he said, "You know who's a really cool character? It's this character, the Spot. Have you ever heard of him?" I'm like, why do you think he's cool? He's like, because nobody thinks he's cool. That's why he's cool.
He's got an amazing power, but everybody thinks he's dorky, including us. We thought he was dorky when Avi Arad pitched the idea of having Spot be the villain to us. And we're like,
if anybody wants to know what filmmaking feels like, what Miles is about to experience is pretty much it. You're trying to make something while everyone questions you the entire time.
Yeah, that's it.
Just let me do this.
And here comes.
Here he comes.
Here he comes, the man.
Boom.
Most complex of all of our characters.
That's right, the hardest one.
Spider-Punk is sort of a dream come true, just being such a fan of punk rock music and punk rock posters and art, and just being able to like take this character and just do justice to all that history of this sort of art form and bring it into a character that moves in these really wild ways, changing his look, changing his style to suit whatever emotional beats, but having that Xerox look. I mean, it's kind of awesome just to establish a character who's coming in to basically encourage Miles not to follow the rules and not to do what he's told, to just create that character and embrace that idea that he doesn't follow any rules either. It's just, again, it's
the way he is rendered changes shot to shot and within the shots itself.
He is chaos.
And it's also like a great challenge because this is supposed to be a guy who makes Miles jealous. And as cool a character as Miles is, he has to suddenly make Miles look uncool.
That's right, yeah.
He starts off as a character that feels like an antagonist, and he becomes his strongest ally.
Y'all make a heck of a team.
Daniel Kaluuya's voice ended up being so perfect for this.
As a guy...
Kaluuya, when we met him, we just were like, it has to be him.
It has to be him.
Give him all the money.
The guy's from Camden Town, like the birthplace of punk, and he was amazing having him there to be like, well, how would you say this? We don't know the slang.
That's right.
How do you say what this is?
And a little assist from Reggie Yates.
That's right. That's right. So we weren't fully embarrassed when we gave him pages.
This is sort of the Goonies Never Die shot right here.
Yeah.
It's like everybody hanging onto the rope.
Right.
For real.
Mm-hmm. And the line work there on the dark matter, insane.
Crazy.
And this line work there, and just beautiful. More Titmouse Spot vision shenanigans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of this was early Spot test too. That was sort of then plussed up.
Yeah, dabbed
Exactly.
in.
Remember, Spencer Wan took a pass at doing some early Spot stuff as well that inspired a ton.
And this shot,
where he goes from being
from
the Spot to what I like to
is my favorite.
casually refer to as the Abyss.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Seeing this, I think, for the first time when we saw these in lighting,
You're like,
the combination
oh
of
my
pretty much
God.
every single technique that was used to make this movie put into one shot. There's probably 1,000 different tools used to make those shots, and they took months. Just no matter, it's just a few seconds, but they took months to make those shots.
Right.
What an
And the
impression.
promise of him as a villain that you're actually scared of is comes to fruition.
Gotta say, this we're heading into now is my favorite action sequence in the film because
nice.
what is Spider-Man if not saving people?
Right.
And there's something about we took so many passes at the choreography in this moment. In this team of four, I can enjoy a whole movie.
Oh my God, they're so
with this
great
foursome
together. Yeah.
It's also watching people come together and work together for the first time, which is really
in
satisfying.
harmony, and no one's mad at anybody. They're all just working together.
That's right. They're actually doing the thing.
They complement each other perfectly.
Yeah.
They each have a unique way of moving. Their movement. It's so.
And they're helping each other accomplish these goals.
Yep.
And again, just
positive accomplishments, gang.
Yes.
I mean, the
Feels
scale
good.
of this thing.
And Miles gets to be in a leadership position
Right.
here, which is also great.
Got to give a shout out to one of our board artists, Ben Choi, here, because he had this moment where Miles is sort of tearing through and just picking everybody up as he runs through this building. And when he jumps out with them and then cooperates with everybody. Oh, man.
Get to see all 4 of them.
Shot with all 4 of them. I want to just make
Eat
that,
it up.
have that on my
Fun
poster.
fact, we kept extending the tail, and the animation team kept adding material to the head.
More
shot, and it was like an endless. The shot got like 3 times as long in that process.
Man. And this was sort of a late,
beautiful shot.
This was a late take because we tried a lot of different ways to get. We wanted Pav to have to make be in a situation where he was gonna have to make a choice.
A 2 cakes situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where if things were going with Miles wasn't there, that
he would have had
Inspector
his spider
Singh,
moment, right?
Yeah, Inspector Singh, he was gonna have to let Inspector Singh die and have that on his consciousness for the rest of his life. But because Miles is there, it didn't go that way. But we tried so many different things.
Yep.
This ended up being one of the simpler versions of it.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of very elaborate versions that we tried.
But I remember that was a big revelation. That was a moment where everybody went like, ooh, okay, this is coming together now.
Right.
Yeah. It's an emotional idea.
Yeah.
Right. And he says, I can do both, which is, Miles's mantra.
And it's so like subtly and wonderfully set up at the beginning of Pop's talk up when he says he's only been Spider-Man for just a few months.
Right.
Because this is the kind
and
of
everything is going great
canonical
and
event
easy
that,
for him.
And it's so easy.
Yes, it's so
The minute
easy.
he says that, you're like, oh, he's
boy.
he's coming.
I guess
coming for
that's
him.
not going to last long.
You're all right.
I promised.
You okay? I was so worried. I mean,
It's time for the deep voice.
Yes,
Deep
sir.
voice.
They all have 2 voices.
They'll have to do their deep voice character.
I wonder how many fans would be like, doesn't she recognize his hair? It's a cartoon.
Right.
That's the point. Is in
mean,
this world,
yeah.
no.
That's right.
You gotta think she maybe suspects something at this point.
If Clark Kent can get away with glasses, he can get away with hair.
We're good.
We
Freaking
experimented with a
Superman
joke.
puts on some glasses and
Yes.
then he's a different guy.
We experimented with a joke where he put his hands in his hair and swept it from the right side
That's
to
right.
the other side.
That's
but
the move.
nobody.
It didn't work as well.
By the way,
Man
Man
Like
Like Miles was a suggestion of Kaluuya's, which is like, if I say Man Like Miles, there is this one theater in Camden that's going to go nuts.
Is that right?
So we did it for that theater.
So if you're out there,
yes.
I hope you did
That's
go
for
nuts.
you.
This is Daniel Kaluuya trying to get that statue of himself built.
built outside of the Odeon Camden town.
I do love how supportive Punk is in that moment, though.
Yeah.
He's just rooting on.
What
this-
could be better than having the coolest dude in the movie affirm Miles?
Yes.
Incredible.
Right.
It's a metaphor for capitalism.
Joke that sort of it baffles me how people like it at such a sad moment. And he's like, "Bleh." And it always gets a laugh.
It lands.
He just can't help himself.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Miles. We actually met before when I was invisible.
I know who you are.
We used to call this the Ghostbusters sequence for a while.
Yes, because they
everybody
used to
had-
have like proton packs.
That's
Yes.
But now it's more of an architectural surveying
I
sequence.
love
Yes.
Now they have these weird.
You know what's cooler than
pyramids.
proton packs? It's tripods.
That's right.
I love that we even built the spider walker because initially
Yeah.
a portal just opened
was
and
a
they
portal.
walked out.
Yeah.
So them being in a ship.
I think it was to try and make it feel a little bit more impressive when they showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also to say the Spider Society is even more complex than and more sophisticated than you think.
Yeah. There's like a full organization that has, tanks and stuff. And,
Cool vehicles.
Yeah.
Cooler under your mask.
I was just cool the whole time.
That makes
Yeah,
me
you
laugh
were.
every time.
So this was a
Welcome to
big
Nueva
debate,
York.
right? Showing the city up top
Yeah.
versus showing it later.
Well, we didn't have it there, and people were confused when
They
he
were.
finally burst out the window.
Yes.
And so it ended up being like, oh, we need to show that he's in this sort of like idealized version of the future, a Sid Mead.
They thought he was in a pocket dimension.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
screened it once, and somebody said, "Is he in Spider Heaven?" Like, where did he go? Like,
So
oh,
established
man.
like, okay, we're in a building in a futuristic city is good to know because
That's
we're gonna
right.
get there. And here's a lot of the
A lot of
crew
spider
members.
quips.
Great for rewatchability.
This is the lobby.
I love that performance there. It's so specific where he's got his hands on his.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know his mind is blown.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And like Gwen is like weirdly tentative with about her announcing Spider Society was because she knows what's coming.
And we're also all slightly ashamed of the term.
This amazing set, this interior of the Spider Society is like this brutalist sort of vision of the future, this perfect vision of the future that like is created by our along with everything else, our amazing production designer Patrick O'Keefe, who kind of had this obsession and was convinced that a brutalist concrete web would, and it turned out he was right, because this is one of my favorite sequences in the film.
The pitch was, let's make a building that is what brutalism was always going for.
Yeah.
Right. What I love, though, is that it works on these two fronts, right? It's this super aspirational, like, spider playground up top, and then it becomes sort of a prison that he's trying to escape.
Right.
Yeah.
Now we're about to see a fun cameo that we shot in New York.
We got a lot of SNL. We got Andy Samberg come in as Ben Reilly. We got Taron Killam come in as Web Slinger.
Yorma as Adriano Tumino.
That's still our guy, right?
That's Andy.
There's Andy.
That was Andy, editor Andy. And here's this guy who was a fun guy to have a little shoot of.
One of the hardest secrets to keep.
That's right. His costume designed by a costume designer we work with named Tracy G.G. Field. She's fantastic and whipped that thing together in like
3 days.
Yeah,
Amazing.
like 2 weeks. Incredible.
I got to give Donald Glover credit for really keeping it secret. Even Brian Tyree Henry didn't know Donald Glover was in the film until he saw the film.
I was like, you didn't
His
even bother
publicist
texting
didn't
me?
know.
We have the same publicist, and she didn't know.
I
I'm
love.
going, wow.
I mean, that
Lock
secret
shit tight.
has
That's amazing.
like really was kept till the very last second.
Except for by us right now.
Yes.
There it is.
Spider Bite Margot
Yes.
Kess is created by Nyla Magruder. Story interned on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Boom.
Fact.
Oh, wow, yeah. Voiced by Amandla Stenberg.
And she's great, and she moves. She can move, not in a traditional manner. Her body can sort of like zap over from place to place, and it's fun for the animators.
This was another, I think,
Yeah,
I would argue that maybe this is our second behind Punk most complex
I mean,
character.
I would think
Yeah.
the Vulture
Yes.
probably.
Yeah, the Vulture, Spider-Punk, and Spider-Bite.
She took the longest, actually, of all of those three, actually, to develop her look. And I think I was obsessed with hologram technology and exactly how it
Right.
moved and worked. And
And how she's like
it was
weirdly
hard.
hollow, which I
she's
think is really
hollow.
fun.
But also, it was one of those things that is, again, in animation, it's really hard to see the potential of a character until they're rendered.
Yeah.
And so it took a long time to get it. And once they got it, the animators started really having her move around and use her powers more.
But that was, I remember looking at like late 80s to mid 90s hologram tech as the sort of jumping off point there.
I know Hobie's stealing a bunch of parts here that he's going to use to make some watches for folks.
So good.
Spoiler alert.
Guys, I'm assuming you've seen this film
Yes,
before.
exactly.
If not,
There's
watch
that
it normal.
one person out there,
and then watch it normal, then come back. And
too late.
I know. I'm just saying.
They can't go back in time now. I love the animation choices with Hobie in this.
Here we get a
good.
peek
He
at
can't stand
Miguel's,
still.
Right.
and there you get a peek at Miguel's white suit.
But I mean, he's also physically just getting in his way. He's acting as like a gate.
Yeah, Hobie is. It's kind of sad there. It's really sweet. One of the hardest things to do is to keep Miguel human because he's doing so many tough antagonistic things.
I love there on that reverse shot that the jacket is animating at a completely different frame rate than the rest of the body.
I know, it's wild. The animators had control over how frequently he moved.
And you can look at the marker lines on this elevator thing that he's on. It's as though it were, a concept art drawing where you could see how they colored it in with a fat marker.
This is like meant to be this brutalist concrete web. Again, That was the concept behind this idea, is the symbolic idea of Miles being trapped in this web made by Miguel. It's both aspirational but also a trap.
You can see the line work on Miguel's face and how the lines of his shoulders like go off.
That's right.
It matches the world that he's in, where it has a sort of, you can see the underdrawing.
But I think the main reason why we actually wanted to design his world this way and even do the lighting on Miguel this way is because Miguel is a person who is trying to present this vision of the future that always has this dark side to it that's underneath it. So there's something about it you can never quite see. And it's always kind of trying to live up to its own impression, its own aspirations, and can't quite do it because there's a flaw behind all of it. And I think that's what I think kind of how the character is worked into the design of every single dimension.
Look at this guy.
Jake Johnson, back in action.
At what point did the robe become like, that is the definite? I can't remember, but it just always seemed
pretty
right.
early.
It was
Yeah,
pretty
The
early,
character
right?
design of him with the baby Bjorn, he had the robe. And
Was it a
like,
Christy Sang drawing that she did?
Christy Sang did a drawing really, really early on. I think it would have been like 2020.
Yeah.
She did a drawing, him in the robe with a baby Bjorn, because she did a series of like little almost
vignettes,
like story
right?
beats.
Yeah.
They're all kind of here.
And
Yeah,
they're
they
all
are.
here. They kind of wound up living in this sequence.
You guys were very passionate that Peter was thrilled about being a dad.
Yeah,
and
it was-
jumped into it with brio and made diapers with his webs, and it wasn't like an annoying nuisance to have a kid, but
He
rather
was all
that
in.
He was
No.
all in.
Because my favorite thing about Peter in this movie is, and you know, we saw it at the end of the last movie, he was a guy like who wanted and pined for so much for so long, Mary Jane, and he actually resolves that and goes back to Mary Jane at the end of the last film, and to just show that he got a win and that he actually figured his life out. And now he's living his best life for the first time, you know, and happy to,
Yeah,
this is the
he's
best time in
stoked.
his life.
Yeah.
Is just kind of awesome to see him celebrating that.
By the way, I always laugh. We sort of glossed over it here, but when he goes, "You guys smell that? Mayday took a crap." It's the best.
she's a
He
Parker.
elaborates and says, "Yep, she's a Parker. That's what happens when a Parker eats an avocado."
The Jake Johnson, American Treasure.
Beautiful.
And here we are looking at a familiar tree version of how people perceive the multiverse in other Marvel properties. And now we get to see how
it really is.
How it is for our spider
How
folk.
it's transposed.
How they're all connected by these moments in their lives.
Spider-Verse. Oh, that's stupid.
Once again, these laser webs, I feel if you notice, Miguel uses laser webs, this laser technology. It's got this like 80s sort of script kind of running through
That's
it
right.
at all times. And it was intentional that they're like low poly. Like his computers don't have the fidelity to make like curves.
We kept talking about those old Vector, like Vectrex and the
Vectrex.
old, the old Vector games.
Right. A lot of the art that we were looking at for inspiration was generated in the 80s, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
This sequence is one of the last to be lit because it was so complicated. How to like get these canon event moments to be clear to the audience that there's sort of these like nexus points. And here's up our old beautiful friend.
I'm blanking right now, but we finally settled on canon events, but we called it a lot of
We
other
called
things.
it
Convergence events.
Convergence
Convergence
events
for a long time.
A whole lot
But-
of things that confused
but-
the hell out of people.
Yeah, but once we realized it was canon and we're telling a story about not
Breaking
being beholden
from-
to canon.
Yes.
It's like, oh, it all came together. It's crazy that wasn't the case from the
Yeah,
I
beginning.
know, right?
But, that's the process.
It's a lesson to fandom, these comics that you fall in love with so much. You can't turn it into...
You get preserved in...
Well, you didn't fall in love with them because they were
Carbonite.
following the rules.
Yes.
You know, you fell in
Yeah.
love with them because they were doing something new and exciting you.
Right.
And
And then when you get trapped by nostalgia, it's dangerous.
It really is.
I really like this. It becomes this like theater of the mind where like they're in this set, but they can all be lit with different lights. And it's sort of like this theater of the mind that Miguel starts to control and bring Miles into this idea of what is really at stake for the entire Spider-Verse.
We should also mention that Inspector Singh was voiced by producer Aditya Sood's dad, Narendra.
That's right.
Because you changed the story, Pavitra's dimension is unraveling.
And this was another one. You don't know what this scene is until it goes through essentially all phases of production.
Right. It's the audience needs to be led to like the logic of this movie, which is a very complicated idea.
Yeah.
In storyboard form, it was like almost unreadable.
It was
like
hard.
it was so hard to like understand.
Yeah.
And when we started finally lighting it, it all clicked together.
That's right.
And this story of Miguel's backstory was something that we were just sort of implying for a long time.
Yes.
And we realized the audience needed to understand it more explicitly. And I think it really makes it a lot more heartbreaking, and he seems like more of a real person.
Understand where he's coming from, yeah. I mean, it actually makes me even more empathetic toward the Kingpin in the first film.
That's right, yeah.
Because basically Miguel kind of succeeded at what the Kingpin was trying to do.
Right.
It would have crumbled regardless.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now, like, it's tough watching your kid turn to dust
in
your hands.
Oh, gosh.
It's not something anybody wants to go through a second time.
It's worth calling out, too, that, again, sort of bringing in comic artists to reinforce a lot of these ideas. Those little vignettes were Gigi Gabanago.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That's so beautiful, watching it just kind of dissolve.
My dad is about to be captain.
This is such a balancing act, guys. Like, knowing that characters that you love have this information in their head and they've been holding on to it, you know?
Yeah. It's tough. You know, they have to believe that if he knows about it and tries to stop it, it would lead to the destruction of the entire universe.
Yeah. Yes.
That kind of stakes are the only things that allow you to, like, understand why they wouldn't tell him.
That's right.
When does it happen? When does it happen?
2 days.
That animation's so awesome.
Yeah, it was.
So heavy and so real.
Yeah. It's just, like, just so...
And that is
nicely
not
inserted.
mocap, people. That is animation.
That's
That's animation. That's watching someone think and process before they talk.
That's right.
What about your dad? He's a captain, right?
And then you realize here, too, what Gwen's been sort of, like, dealing with and living with, and it's a whole other layer.
And she's lit like these two colors on either side of her, like the light, the shadow that she's like dividing, that she's divided by. And so are all the characters. They're like, they have their light on one side, their shadow, and Miles is caught in the middle between all of them.
So we're just supposed to let people die because...
And so this works so well because we're in such a unique position here with this character and with this entire franchise, that this has happened so many times in all these films.
So we know that it's that thing that kind of has to happen.
Yeah.
Or does it?
Or does it?
Well, it's making a virtue of the fact that there's been 9 of these movies.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The more damage I did. You can't have it all, kid.
And I'm just very close to being, you can't have your cake
And eat
and
it
eat
too.
it too. And we thought we were so smart thinking of it, and then when we saw it on screen, it was like, oh god, it's so
no,
silly.
It's corny, too corny.
Make it go away.
Even his old friends.
Yeah.
Is this an intervention or something?
It very much is a carefrontation.
Josh Keaton, ladies and
Gotta
gentlemen.
love everyone.
The legend.
Much taller in real life,
Indeed.
I gotta say.
I do love the design of that character, though. The little
Yeah.
stocky
Yeah.
Sean
I
Cheeks
love the
Galloway
lighting in
designed
this.
that
Holy
that version. I worked on that show, guys.
Yeah.
You did?
On that Spider-Man
I
show.
didn't know
yeah.
that.
I did.
Full
Really?
circle moment for
Boom.
Joaquim.
Oh man,
that's
you
right.
gotta let people know that.
Yeah.
It's such a beloved show. It's like a really
Yeah, it was sort of the
classically
Spider-Man of a
iconic-
generation
yeah,
for a lot of kids.
exactly.
For sure.
The lighting here
Gone too
is so
soon.
great from
This
being
is one
in.
of-
This is the only time we have someone inside the field like this where we're
Yeah.
showing.
I think that's right.
And this is one of my favorite moments, seeing Punk give him the advice there. It'd be
Yeah.
like
That's
full
so
circle of
good.
like he's got his back.
And there was a modulation to be had there too, because there was a version where he blew everybody back, and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm both proud of and embarrassed by how much I agitated for Mayday to have that knit cap.
I love it. The knit cap is great.
I was like,
It's a
she-
massive win.
She needs to have that knit cap.
It becomes a huge moment at the end of the film.
That's right.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
And
Here it
here's
is.
awesome.
Here it is. That should put that meme to rest, I think.
Yes,
It can
the-
never
the
be done
end.
again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or can it?
Little
Good old Max
cameo
Born.
from Mike Rianda.
That's right. He does a bunch of voices in this section. Director of
that armor
Mitchell's versus the Machine.
Oh, that armor. It's so cool. That version of Aranya is like,
amazing.
I'm ready. I'm ready to see the...
More to come.
I want to see more of her.
Yep.
Gotta leave
Aranya
something for the next
Cortisone,
one.
everybody.
That's right.
It would be amazing if people saw the longest version of this chase, which was like
It's another
as long.
5 minutes.
Yeah,
Yes.
easily.
There were a lot of bits.
Spider
Yes.
Rex.
I love this.
Chomp.
Chomp.
He
So
twists
this,
that-
it suddenly
he twists
becomes a
that hand.
prison.
I like
Yeah.
that they have Miguel burgers.
Yeah, right.
And did
But
anyone
not
who
on-
else knew that Burger King was going to do a Whopper?
They
I didn't know.
Not gonna
I didn't
do.
know.
They
They
did.
did it. I didn't know.
The red is beets. Beet
Oh,
juice.
wow. I'm super happy that this bit lasted as long as it made it into the film. This sort
It
of
got
backwards.
cut and we put it back.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And then seeing him ride, man, it's incredible.
Oh yeah, Sun Spider.
Sun Spider. A spider sona that was put into the comics. And now,
Booyah.
Danielle, who
love
voiced
this.
her, did it right in this very room.
that's right.
That was that
That's
Yorma
Yorma.
again?
Yorma is 67.
Yeah.
And so the idea here is that they're now entering the gym, the
That's
sort
right.
of training grounds, the
There was a lot more gym material.
There were a
so
lot
much
of
more.
Ben Riley's.
A lot of bro.
There was oil. There was
Yes.
oil
That's right.
involved. He
This
used
was-
body oil. That's right. To get through.
yeah.
And here comes the cameo from Mr. Metro Boomin.
My bad, everybody. There was somewhere to run.
Good cameo.
There it
It's the
was.
rare joke that plays across a real break.
That's right. And what's fun here is that we get a nice view of the beautiful aspirational side of the future,
Yeah.
and then a helicopter landing spot. Even though everyone has flying cars, so I don't know why they need
Hey,
the
man,
helicopter.
They gotta land somewhere.
Helicopters.
And this really was like trying to lean into this like Sid Mead vision of the future, blue skies,
Yeah.
white buildings, like green space integrated into the architecture.
Yeah.
Perfect vision of the future. But then, just like in those comics of 2099s, there's a dark vision underneath.
There's an
But-
underbelly.
And we brought, I mean,
Just
we
like
brought in-
2099 himself, he's like hiding this dark
The
truth.
original
And that's
city
again character through
underneath.
set design, I guess.
Yeah.
And a big important thing that you guys were interested in.
Yeah, very
We
much.
figured out how to make it work
Right.
for the story.
The
And
idea,
have
yeah.
this
the
be
idea of these
inside the
hiding it.
machinery that's keeping the city afloat above the city below.
And the idea is like you're kind of in the clockwork of storytelling and
Yeah.
the way these stories work. And Miles is trying to get out from under it, and Peter is asserting that it has to happen this way.
Yeah, and I love this because it's like this sliding doors where Miles keeps trying to close the door on Peter, but it's not really doors. We found this like really cool motif that the environment itself integrated into itself. It was like Peter's trying to catch up to him, and Miles keeps dodging behind different things and leaving him behind, but Peter refusing to like just let him walk away. It's really great.
Yeah, this scene, wasn't initially in the chase, remember? It was kind of like we realized that Peter and Miles didn't have a quiet moment to reconnect, and we had to figure out a way to get it into the middle of this chase.
You needed a break.
Yeah.
Right.
You needed this kind of content, and this was the only way to have it.
Yeah.
And originally, it was actually boarded like in a hallway or something.
It was
like a hallway.
They were hiding in a tube in a pipe, just sitting there.
I think
Not
when we
nearly as
discovered
interesting.
the idea of the sliding doors and all the steam vents and like using the environment that was built there to sort of really give them a set piece to have this conversation in, it really kind of came to life and became something kind of beautiful between them.
And a great kind of, even though it's not the midpoint, the fulcrum, right?
I mean, the betrayal.
Now he's on his own.
Yeah.
Good talk.
Into the
So
fire.
great.
Right?
Literally.
Right into the fire.
We talked
Literally
about this
into the
being a
fire.
forge,
That's
right? This is where he's being formed.
This is where we were not being clever.
Yeah.
And he literally goes into the fire.
Out of the frying pan.
He's going.
I don't think he planned this out.
If I hadn't said it before, by the way, you're a terrible mentor.
With the assist.
It's fun to go play in this like cyberpunk world that, sort of feels like a little bit of childhood wish fulfillment.
I mean, just
sure.
getting John Bell on this, who was a part of.
That's right.
A lot of those designs.
That's
the
right.
The guy
Art director
designed
for
the
Back to the-
hoverboards in Back to the Future, for God's
Yeah.
sake.
And he did designs for vehicles and all sorts of stuff for this future world.
Yeah, Miles overpowering Jess Drew there was really good too, because people who didn't notice, she hit him with the motorcycle early on in the chase, and Miles learns. So
Right.
she tries the same move a second time, and he's kind of adapted to it.
That's right.
And
You got to make some adjustments at halftime, as someone wise once told me.
This sequence of them on the train, this was one of the very first things I think I remember you even boarding. It was like a test that we did.
Yeah.
Like within the first year, like being on the movie.
This was like, what does combat look like, and what's a set piece that, what does a spider can get out of any situation?
Right.
This is like being at, the darkest of dark alleys for a normal person, but in the spider world.
And I think what I loved.
Nothing.
Yeah, and I think what I loved about it is the idea, like from the beginning, that there's literally nowhere to run, and if they don't resolve this, they're going to even run out of air.
That's right.
They're going to go to space.
That's right. No, totally.
They're
gonna
headed
run
to
out of
outer
air.
space.
Yeah.
There's a ticking clock that way.
And are they both willing to die for this? Like, 'cause
how long can they hold on?
They're going to try to hold on until they run out of air.
That's right.
And it's kind of an amazing thing. And the fact that 2099 just refuses to give up, because the relentlessness that you sort of, we sort of talked about it from the beginning.
That one right there, I just have to call out. He elbows him 3 times in the head.
Yeah.
And it had to be 3 times.
And Kemp Powers would accept nothing less.
sorry, man. I mean, there's a thing you can do when, even though you're running, you got to get your licks in.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly right.
You got to get those licks in.
Got to throw some elbows.
Yeah.
But forget these people are strong.
Yeah.
And this was another one. So many people touched this scene, and this scene was way longer than it needed to be, and then it was way shorter than it needed to be. And it found itself,
It did. It's so much of it was Joaquim in edit, drawing as we cut.
That's right.
Building the train, building the tracks in front of the train.
As we did it. Yeah.
Didn't Winton do a lot of boards for this also?
Winton did, the early versions of this.
Yeah.
This was Winton, yeah. And then Ben took a stab. Sarah Partington took a stab.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a lot of people.
Part of it is like making sure that we it's painful.
It is, yeah.
That when he throws him against that thing, it hurts. It's
Mm-hmm.
loud.
And his
But he
expressions,
just-
I mean, the Annam team.
But what I love is nothing compares to the emotional pain of this moment.
Exactly.
No
Right.
matter how physically
Right.
painful it all felt, which we made you feel,
Yeah.
And
this right here is what it is where it really hurts.
we even had Miguel say, "You don't belong here," which his mom predicted someone was going to say
Mm.
that.
Yes, yes.
I love that camera push.
I'm not a kid, Gwen.
That's exactly what you are. You're just
And this was another idea that had a lot of awesome foreshadowing, but just the idea that his suit was sort of like juicing as he was slamming him down harder and harder.
Right. And now you understand why we made his suit also out of all this technology. It was so Miles could depower it.
Zap
With
him.
that technique he was trying to practice in front of Pavitra earlier, he finally does it right because figures it out.
I just love that he had this plan the whole damn time.
Yep.
And that shot, that wide shot of the spiders all crawling up the
Yeah.
train actually like makes my skin crawl.
You're like, oh god,
As though it is bugs. It's
Yeah,
so great.
They are like bugs.
I'm gonna do my own thing.
Love
His
that line.
expression is so incredible.
And this awesome fall through the
Yeah,
crowd.
through the crowd.
Just-
And he tries to stop himself with his blades, with his, That's another very expensive decision. What if they all chase him up the train at one time?
Yeah. There was a time when there were way more horses, and I was like, we can't have a lot of horses. I'm
They're never gonna make it on this train.
I'm not buying it. They're sticking onto this high-speed train.
Yes.
You don't know that, Chris. You're not a horse.
It was a little.
And then
a little
from all of
distracting.
this crashing and bashing, I love that we go to like a very, very quiet scene.
Yes.
We consciously decided the one she'd like would be those Bantu knots, by the way.
That's right.
we looked at the hairstyles and be like, which one would she like the most?
I just love that she sees the Cleopatra one. She's like, oh no.
Oh, no. Yes.
Yeah.
This came together beautifully with her vision. I remember playing those Space 1999 comics. Had such cool panelization.
Yeah.
And integrating that not only into what you see here on screen, but the way she envisions things.
Right, and it's the way that we do shadows in this scene and on the train, like the crazy color shadows of the Space 1999.
That's right.
Like it'll be like orange.
Choreographing
Shadow.
Miles's invisibility through this sequence was like a
Tricky.
several years long process.
Well, fun fact: we had the animation team animated him in every single shot,
yes.
and then it gave us the option of when to remove him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
This is like
This is incredible, and an
So
incredible sound
rad.
design moment.
Oh yes, this machine, which
Yes.
is supposed to feel like organic.
I'm touching Justin's shoulder for this
Yeah,
machine
So
right
this
here. 'cause it's-
machine right here, Aenir, is like a childhood wish come true. So for anybody who wants to know, there's a movie called Kroll that was a huge influence on me growing up, and it had this plastic resin spider that was stop motion, and I just loved I just loved it. And it was and the character who climbed across the web in that movie to
Right.
grab the hourglass.
That's right.
That character's name was Aenir.
Boom.
That's right.
And-
we call this Go Home Machine Spider in here also.
Yes, we do.
And they use like whale noises and other things in this to make it sound like it was a living being and not just like a machine.
But I think also it was like so fun to try and create something terrifying
Right.
yet beautiful at the same time. I'm just really excited and proud whenever I watch this sequence of just how intense it is. But
Yeah.
there's always beauty in the pain in this movie.
Well, look at how he makes an ally.
Yes.
Right.
He does
Yes.
right here.
And look how beautiful the colors of the panels around him are. I mean, that's just
Yes.
gorgeous.
She's like so moved by what he does.
Yes.
It makes her into a hero.
Yes.
And part of the way you earn that was how aspirational the color really is.
Yeah.
Even she can feel how beautiful it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. This poor thing.
Right. We like thought of this as some sort of like somewhat mystical technology from the deep, deep future, from like the 3000s that they found in some other dimension.
Yeah, it looks way more organic than anything we see.
Yeah.
in
The idea
world
is
up
that
to this
it's
point.
not
From
something
there.
he made.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
something
Right.
they
It's
found.
something foreign.
That's right.
Perhaps there's
Maybe there's
Maybe
something
there's
there.
another
bit of a
movie.
story thread
It's
there.
quite possible.
Maybe we'll find out more.
He's my friend.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Do you know for certain what happens if he breaks the cannon?
And I love
Wanna
that
find out?
as Miles felt betrayed, Gwen also feels betrayed.
You're wrong,
And
Jess.
thought she knew she could trust, who she could trust.
And the minute she speaks up,
that's
when
right.
she questions, authority.
then she's out.
Oh, that hurts.
That hurts.
You're right.
It's like she was this lost girl who found somebody who like thought she could believe in and would make her give her validation that she couldn't get at home. She ran away, and then that person abandons her. It's painful.
Oof.
And it's also, it's two different generations of people, right, who made it in this world. And if you're of Jessica's generation, like, you made compromises.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right.
To do that,
That's
know?
right.
Once again, when Miles and Gwen leave, all the color leaves.
Look at that color.
Look how great that shot is. But you can see this is affecting Jet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that take, just the eye glances and the eye darts say so much.
She's staying tough, but she's questioning.
Somebody catch Spot. Yeah, sorry.
It's the first time Jessica's color changed in the movie, actually, where she wasn't wearing a red jacket and yellow glasses. Because, like you say, she was changed.
My kid says that I've had the right amount of you line to me so many times because I
Oh,
had to
really?
read
Sorry
it so
about
many
that.
times.
Right amount
He
of
uses
you.
it on me all the time.
I had the right amount of you. Yes.
Shout out Dan Pemberton, by the way, for this piece of score
Yes.
that basically carries you through a reel.
Yes.
That's true.
True. Yeah, it's incredible. I love the idea. He's so intense and can't wait to go after
Yeah.
Miles. He rips
He
open,
rips open the
dimension.
portal. He's like, it's going too slow.
Seeing these three animation styles next to each other
Yeah,
is pretty
it's pretty
dramatic
cool.
to see.
Awesome.
And that was actually a big part of like what was driving our decisions. We get asked sometimes like, why is, how did you decide? But like really it was getting to see them side by side and having to really play up. And it was just fun to play up how different each of the spiders were in this movie.
We have MJ returning, this time voiced by Melissa Sturm.
That's right.
Who has she voiced something in all of your films?
She's done.
She's done a Scratch. She was the main Scratch voice for Anna Faris's character in Cloudy.
She did. She was a construction worker in the Lego Movie and other things. These different versions
love
of
that
Manhattan
shot.
are just gorge.
Yes. I love that baby with her one sock and just
Right, and her spider ham.
Yes. her baby pot belly sticking out.
And I remember it was super important to you, Phil, that when both Miles and Gwen are thrown from the portal, it happens violently because it's sort of an unnatural.
It's like,
yeah, and then the
Yeah.
other ones come out with control.
right. That's the. Yeah, that's the go home machine.
So now Gwen is
Giving you the business on the way
Yeah.
out.
forced to go home and finally face the things she's been running from.
That's a sports metaphor, by the way.
I understand.
No, sorry. You're just such a nerd in high school, I figure.
I have watched sports.
Ah, okay, champ.
Unbelievable.
Now we've all got quiet, just
I
watching
know.
the film.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
you
all
can't
kind of
miss
watching
it.
at home now. Sorry everyone at home.
So this sequence was very
Easy.
hard.
Very hard.
Very easy to do.
This is pushing that idea of the mood ring style it as far as it could possibly go.
That's right.
And a great collaboration between, the production design team and Natasha, our colorist.
I'm looking at you.
And the how radical this scene is as far as
Yes.
how each shot is different from each one around it, and how it changes as the mood of the scene changes. It's like a crazy art film in a major blockbuster movie.
It really is.
It is.
Where are you going?
I don't know.
I think what I love about this sequence is it's these people who really love each other that are having this beautiful awakening to each other's words and finally listening to each other, and that sort of getting expressed through the beauty of the imagery around them as they are sort of at first stuck in their different boxes and on their different sides of the room, and it's this conversation as it opens up, it actually brings beauty in and even more color into the scene as they start finally communicating.
It's sort of following her around the room as she's opening up, you know?
And Shay and Haley's performance is great here. This is something I think we recorded it initially separately, but then we brought the two together. This was another rarity where we brought the two actors into the room together.
Yeah, and how did that work out?
I took an oath.
Then arrest me, Dad. Get it over with.
I can't.
Why not?
Because I quit.
When?
About halfway through your big speech.
It's such a heartwarming line.
Yeah.
It's just amazing that he expresses vulnerability to her. That's what unlocks this whole thing.
Well, so many people ask other people to listen to them, but then either person doesn't listen or they are too afraid to say.
And now they do.
What they're saying, and now we finally get a chance for everybody to actually say what they want to say.
Yes.
And
I love after
and listen.
Yeah.
And good things happen.
Yeah.
I love what happens to the look of the scene after the breakthrough as well.
Right.
You
It
know
becomes-
how everything just becomes light.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So,
Well, the idea was that the audience would be physically bathed in light.
yes.
Right.
That's
Like,
so
oh.
great.
Feel so relieved to be in this more
Mm-hmm.
pastel.
Yeah, literally
Warm.
relieved.
You have to do all this wild stuff and then, also give it an emotional arc.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It starts dark and turns to light, and yet it's wiggling all over the darn place.
And I got to say, we knew this was a moment. We screened this, and there were people going like, "Yo!" when they saw the
Oh, when they
watch.
saw Hobie's watch, forget it.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're in. We could give them a whole extra hour.
That's
at the end of
right.
this.
Yeah. We decided only to give them 24 more minutes.
That's right.
And of course, everything in Hobie's world, it's different. It's gonna be made through that punk rock, sort of lens. So it was fun to sort of recreate another portal with all these like punk rock poster pieces that are changing and moving.
Right.
I can't wait to see the little added bonus content of their interaction, Captain Stacy and Hobie, when he delivered the
yeah.
watch.
Oh my God.
There was
Can
a
you
moment we
imagine?
almost put
Yeah.
where we put Ben Riley when he gets captured and thrown into a portal.
Oh yeah.
There was a
Right,
bit
you got sent to Gwen's
we
apartment.
got sent to Gwen's
Right,
apartment,
right.
and he was like, "Hello."
Yeah, there's 2 short films for
Yeah.
you.
That would have been the post-credit scene.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's really good.
Don't get lost. Things are gonna happen. I didn't know how to tell you.
Dark Journey of the Soul.
Miles as Dark Knight.
That's right. That's right.
This
So great when he gets. Man, you could feel that.
Yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
Jeez. And yeah.
In a
I like
theater,
to think that
it's
he
ouch.
left a $50 bill or something, a $100 bill as a little damage payment
Sorry.
behind. Sorry.
We actually tried that.
I know, I'm sure.
Send everyone out anywhere he might be.
Congrats, Captain.
There's Jorge.
Gutierrez, our brother.
Another great animation director
That's great.
voicing Gutierrez. A character coincidentally also named Gutierrez.
This was a project, sort of working, all these moving parts.
How
Oh,
do
man.
are we intentionally faking out the audience? Are we not?
Are we making people angry? Or
And eventually, I think we all decided we weren't really going to try to intentionally fake them out. We actually made sure made sure every single dimension looks very different.
That's right.
And there's different things happening in each one. If
You're
you
just
go
gonna
back and watch, you can
assume.
track.
Yeah, like right down to that welcome sign that is a different
Yes,
sign.
It
That's
says
right.
watch out on the
And in one dimension it's
42
raining,
version.
and another dimension it's not. But I think you forget
You
across
do.
the cuts.
You do.
Really quick.
This is a great argument for persistence of vision and how powerful it is.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, exactly.
The color on the buildings is totally different.
Yep.
We're not actually trying to make them hook up.
It's not super linear, but
Rain versus no rain.
But it's funny because people they convince themselves,
right,
and it works.
that's the fragility of people's memory, or people's what they perceive.
And what's crazy about this scene is that until very late in the game, we didn't let Miles give a big speech about how he'd grown as a person and how he isn't afraid anymore. And we really need to let the audience know that Miles had gone from being a teenager to an adult in this film. And he started one way and he ended a totally different way.
Yes.
And that he had those words that Rio said to him when he left, that now he was coming back and talking about what he learned.
How he
and
understood,
it's kind of it kind of made it all work, I think, once you guys put that in there.
Only to pull the rug afterwards.
Yeah.
And a really lovely performance by Shamik here.
Yes.
Oh, Shamik
brings
did
it.
so
Yeah,
good.
he really does. I think his performance across the whole film, man, he really he like switched into another gear for this film.
Yeah.
Nemesis. And I'm gonna stop him.
Because there's this thing that we often do in animation where we, out of necessity, have to Frankenstein together vocal performances. And one of the things I really noticed about this film was a lot of these extended monologues are straight up the full monologue. There's not a lot of Frankensteining of people's line reads or anything like that. These folks are just giving heartfelt, amazing performances.
So, what do you got? Such great, talented people working with him. And when you workshop the scenes again and again.
Yes,
and
that
again.
was
dedicated.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, they want to get it right. When we ask them to do it for the 5th time, they're fired up.
Yep.
Yeah. They're not like this thing again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they all have a passion and a level of, searching for excellence.
Yes.
I'm Spider-Man.
That look on her face. Up, down, back up. I love the little eye darts.
He copies
Yeah,
her.
he kind of does it too. Like, what the hell?
Down, up.
Down, up.
Uh-oh.
The superhero? He got bit by a spider? Gave him spider powers?
Whip, whip. That's such a great ad.
He's me.
Whip, whip.
There's also like very silly things that were placed in the second reel to make sure that she said that she knew who Spider-Man was.
Right.
That's right.
So that when this happens, you're like, wait a minute.
That she heard he's Puerto Rican. They're watching
Exactly.
they're watching Jay Jonah talk about him on the news.
It almost sounds like she's gonna like get him in trouble. Like, who's Spider-Man? Whose butt do I gotta kick?
Right.
Yeah.
Why don't you have 8 arms? Do you push silk out of your culito?
I had a nightmare.
And I love that Miles, how the animators did such a great job of showing how confused Miles is.
100%.
This was a question that only New Yorkers could really answer. Do the windows actually open down
from
like that?
Down, yes.
Yes.
Match cut.
We're trying to like.
Now we're
Even
ham-
still, they don't totally understand.
They're like,
it.
what's up? Because she could be in the room next door.
Your
you don't know.
your body is working so hard
to put these things together.
make things fit together.
Yes.
So help me out.
Hold on. I need to talk.
Here it is. Boom.
Oh no.
And this, like, working out this whole scene and having it make sense and be telling people just enough what they needed to hear, but keeping it elegant, was a really, really hard thing to do. We tried many versions.
The sweet spot seemed to be that the movie confirms for you just the moment after you realize it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that you get the pleasure of figuring it out for yourself.
Right.
But then the comfort of knowing you were right.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
right.
It reiterates
affirms
it,
all
yes.
your yeah.
Exactly.
When he says
And-
it didn't send me home.
And this amazing moment when Uncle Aaron arrives.
Now the new longer,
mean-
grayer beard.
Yes.
Right.
And a doper wardrobe, I must say.
Yeah, I love that jacket.
Aaron's
I want that jacket.
redone wardrobe.
Those were some,
I don't think I can pull it off, though.
Krasenka takes there.
Yes.
Yeah, Krasenka, who is, his fashion sense is pretty tight. And then working for, I think he must have done at least 50 different
Easily.
costumes.
Easily.
Well, but it's also like a lot of it was like, what are we trying to say? Like, he's a person of means.
Yes.
He's got good style. But it's elegant. It's educated. It's not just like he's got money for the first time when he was like 15 and just got the most expensive thing.
That's right.
Right.
He has taste, right?
And now we get a good look at the new dynamic where, you know, he's financially supporting this family.
Go with Miles.
Well, you know how you grounded him?
Mm-hmm.
I ungrounded him.
You what?
A little.
That moment used to happen off camera, right?
Yep.
But I love the decision to cut from a shot of Aaron to a shot of Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the problem is he's in a less, an environment that's less able to support him or supporting him in a different way, right? Than the world that he was hoping he was going back to.
That's right.
I also love we've done this visual thing after they walk out the door where it becomes more and more visually this different world.
That's right.
I mean, look at how his shadows operate.
And that was a big, that was a big ask too. It's like, how hard do we push these visuals of 42? But you do get so wrapped up in the story that
you're not thinking about
thinking about it.
This is one big wonder also that is really impressive.
And it's, by the way, just, very similar to the camera move on Miles when he goes onto the rooftop in the third reel.
In the barbecue.
That's right, in the barbecue.
Yeah, we wanted to mirror that, but here it is, the dark mirror.
Right.
Yeah, this camera move
this
here is
crazy
great too.
Badoo.
Yeah, follow
This
the
is the one,
helicopter over to
Oof.
the wall.
Gut punch.
The
Greatest
lighting on this
shot.
shot is great too. The
Right.
phone.
The
phone
speckled
light.
phone light. Yeah, like the light in this is like, splatter paint, and the shadows much more inky line, dark
right.
shadows. And again, we have another moment of Miles and Gwen seemingly having some sort of connection or bond.
Through
They
dimensions.
Okay, this is probably that girl. What is he even thinking being with her?
This also was a late add, this scene here, where we really needed to show that the parents also realized that they needed to grow up.
Yes. Yeah, it's the B side to the conversation between Miles earlier in the film as Spider-Man and Jefferson, saying you gotta let him spread his wings, man.
That's right.
The fact that this is so observed and nice, and then it ends with a silly joke and
Yes.
putting his arms out is crazy.
And maybe we gotta grow up too.
A little bit.
Maybe we just gotta let him spread his wings,
There we
man.
go.
Very silly.
Like,
We're having our cake and eating it too.
That's
we should
right.
have two tones.
Oh, come on. What the heck are you doing here?
Oh, his window was open, so I came in because that's normal to do.
I want to talk to your parents.
And worth noting that she's wearing Miles's jacket. And
From movie one.
From movie one.
Yeah, not a
I
jacket
think-
that he hasn't worn in this film.
I think also the idea here was we just from that really strong, really crazy black and all the sketchy lines from that other universe back to the naturalism and the warmth of the home, so that the audience would again be reminded of the stakes that we set up at the very beginning. And Miles is lost in this universe. It's very different, and we wanted to remind the audience of where he came from.
It's all possible.
He loves you more than you could ever imagine.
I've seen it.
It makes that whole run up the train mean something.
mean something, yeah.
That's right.
A demonstration of how much he cares about these
He's
two.
willing to,
And tell him we love him.
You got it.
616B awesome
B
punk portal.
There it is.
Which is a slight retcon of where Peter B. Parker's dimension is.
Is she going to be friend
And
or
you're
foe?
still wondering, yeah.
Sanford Green did that cover, another comic
it's
book artist
awesome.
that we invited to work on the film with us. And
Such a great guy, and so excited to do each one of these pieces. And he contributed a lot to the marketing, a lot of the marketing art.
There's about a dozen folks that work in comics that are big part of this production.
Yeah, one of Sanford's claims to fame is Bitterroot.
Yeah.
Great comics
he's
series.
an incredible comic book artist.
So this scene is meant to almost mirror one-to-one the moment Miles has
from the
Peter
first
B.
movie.
in the first film, right?
There's a lot of similar
Shot choices. Same place in Clarence's
Love this
apartment.
fake out.
Big exhale.
Yeah.
Big exhale.
Look at those shadows on this. The team that developing this world and the look of the world and how characters are moved from shadow to light and be light over dark and then dark over light in the same shot.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these test shots were like one of some of the first things that made me sort of gasp. Be like, oh, this movie's going to be awesome.
Yes, yes.
This was another one where we went into a screening room. There was Patrick's art on the left, and then what looked like a mirror of Patrick's art, and then they hit play on the right side one, and it started moving. And
you're
it was
like, whoa! I remember that.
And Patrick O'Keefe, he did. I got to give him a shout out. He did so many painstaking drawovers to get the line work to be where you see it, and
up to the very last,
up to the very end there, just trying to make sure that this world came together like this. I mean, that's one thing that's actually like interesting about the film. It is a combination of many different techniques, including a lot of times in this sequence somebody just literally going in by hand and having to draw
frame
things.
painting.
Yeah.
Right.
It is definitely a handshake between the people and the machines.
Yep.
I love this animation of him hanging.
So good.
And I love that it matches up, that Daniel Pemberton score that we have at the very beginning over the opening credits.
Yeah.
We have it evolve. This is
Right.
the ultimate evolution of that score tying to this moment.
Yeah, that's
Can we appreciate those kicks for a moment?
Coming up here is Wiles's custom Jordan 2s that you saw.
Yep.
We call him Wiles.
We call him Wiles internally, by the way.
Yeah,
He's
that's
a-
Miles.
Like how Mario had Wario.
Exactly.
And the film, the code name of the film is Whack-A-Mole.
Yep.
For Wiles and Miles.
Or the fact that a problem will pop up, and as soon as you whack one, another one pops
There
up.
goes another one.
Oh
man, oh man.
Well, hello.
Took a while to get this right,
Yeah, no
actually.
kidding.
To make them mirror each other so the audiences really understood.
They're the same person.
We had a
But we
version-
has the lighting, those shadow line work on them, but not so much that you don't realize they're the same person.
We had a version where he had like still more of his mask on and only the front opened up, and nobody knew who it was.
Yeah,
His mask has got a hammer space, guys. It just
Yeah.
goes where it needs to go.
Miles G is voiced by Jarrell Jerome.
That's
a
right.
New addition to our universe. Another great, just bounty of great actors.
Just incredible. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen.
Dangerous.
This also was a late add
Late
into the
add,
thing.
yes.
Like the audience wanted to know
what about
happened
the
spot to
spot?
spot. And he's coming for
He is
Dad.
coming.
He's coming.
And I think this also, until we put this scene in at the end here, it was really unclear like what we were setting up for
What's
the
moving
third film.
forward? That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
we're saying this is a great book that
Everyone should
every
read.
parent should read.
Love that.
And Kemp's
Here's
knit
Kemp's big
cap.
payoff.
It
Can we
makes
turn
it
this
worth
into a
it.
story moment?
It makes it all worth it.
It is.
Again, such a shout out to the animators that can do so much with a look and the subtlety of, half an eye squint.
I never found the right band to join.
Gwen has
And
assembled all of our new
look who's
characters,
back.
along with the classics.
We've got Penny,
Come on.
Ham and
Ham and
Noir. Yes. Welcome back.
What
Penny
a
with that
team.
new
Who
robot.
wouldn't,
That
who
new
wouldn't
robot,
want to
new
spend a film
SPDR
with this
that's,
team?
I
killing
mean,
it.
I'm very excited to see them.
And then this,
All
yeah.
thoroughly fleshed out characters that we all love.
Mm-hmm. So many of them
Oh.
now.
A lot of emphasis on the drum kit here.
Yes.
That's right.
As we start, we finish.
That's right. Band to band.
That is great.
You're ready.
Hot dog.
Yes.
A fun song and some great credits by our friends at Alma Mater who do the credits for almost all of the movies we work on.
The idea was, let's make a really beautiful James Bond.
Yes, exactly. This is it. This is a Spider-Man is envisioned through the James Bond lens. I love it.
This song's great too.
That's so
Beautiful
good.
song. Metro texted me just this like violin concerto with no business on it,
no singing,
and he was like just a question mark emoji, and I was like, it's beautiful, going like, I hope he turns it into something. And it is beautiful, and the thing that he does so well, and he did in all these songs, was take hip hop and elevate it to high art.
Yeah.
You know, and it is a really fun collaboration.
It strikes this really wonderful balance between melancholic and aspirational. That I think the film strikes in this.
The film
really
strikes
cool
a very
way.
different tone from the first one, and this sort of like wraps that up with a bow.
Yeah.
His stuff is so sophisticated, you know, and I think that's what we were aspiring to, is how can we make a richer, even more sophisticated film.
I also love that the credits kind of like recount the entire film while
Yeah.
also kind of alluding to what's about to come.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hypnotic.
Let's give a shout out to Michael Andrews, editor, who worked
Yes,
more
Michael
hours
Andrews.
than anybody on this film. And
I
tried
mean-
every variation of every scene, that is every permutation.
And the timing and pace and the rhythm of this movie really comes from Mike.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think we beat for number of shots in a. I think we set the record for number of shots in
By
an
a
animated.
nose. And even more interestingly, the most number of words Sony has ever translated.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, all kinds of firsts on this movie. But yeah, Mike Andrews being able to keep it all, the amazing cut he put together.
And
Just
unflappable.
I was gonna say,
unflappable.
you got to
The
give
guy.
credit to his disposition too.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm saying.
He just
Steady.
Steady Freddy
Yeah.
the whole way.
Right, yeah.
Even with those crazy beagles in the background, like the man just.
A shockingly sensitive man
Yes.
for how chill he projects.
Yeah.
Now, top to bottom, this crew is aces.
Yeah, we could literally
just shout out every people.
spend
Look at
2
all these great
hours
people.
shouting out all these wonderful artists that made the movie.
Filmmaking partners.
Hope you all enjoyed listening to us chatter on about this.
Jibber jabber.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that's
beyond this.
Oh,
You know what?
snap.
Believe it or not, I'm learning about this for the first time.
I didn't know.
Wait, what?
We have to make another one.
Ah, man.
No, it's true.
Ah,
We're on the hook.
Is anybody working on that?
I don't know.
probably not. And a special shout out to the great Christina Steinberg, who,
Yes, our producer, super producer.
I mean,
Amazing.
made so many things happen and was such a emotional.
Perhaps our
rock.
most resilient crew person.
Yeah, we called her Mama Bear.
Yeah, she really protected everybody and got so many things to happen.
And protected the film.
Yes.
For sure.
The maypole around which we all danced.
Yes. And Christina Belson and Pam Marsden, I mean, our leaders over here at Sony Pictures Animation.
Christine Belson, probably the most fearless person in animation,
Yes.
and willing to go to the mat to protect this film.
Well-
Pam Marsden, we've made a bunch of movies with, and just exactly the kind of person you want to go into battle with.
Yeah, you guys go back to Cloudy with
That's
them,
right.
right? That's
That's
amazing.
right. Produced Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Christine cold called me to work on this film.
Really?
I didn't recognize the number. I never pick up, and when
Glad
I
you
picked
did.
Up,
I'm
yeah.
You
very
said
glad
no,
you did.
we don't want any. Thank you very much. And all our nice partners at Columbia Pictures, Tom Rothman, and everybody in marketing, distribution, the posts. But Tom, is the rare studio head who he gives notes, and they sometimes really help.
Yeah,
and they make a big difference.
We
Yeah.
can't forget Amy Pascal, of course,
course.
of Pascal.
Amy
Pictures.
is the godparent of all of these Spider-Man films. She's been making them for 30 years, and along with Avi Arad, they're both true believers, and we can't make these movies without that.
And Amy's got a really great story sense, and she really has just like a natural nose for understanding what people care about.
She's the true Madam Web.
That's right.
She really is. This is an epic film, a directorial debut on the feature side for all three of you, and it is auspicious.
Thank you.
You guys are unbelievable partners and incredible filmmakers, and you worked so well together. It was really an inspiring sight, so thank you.
Aww.
Thank you, guys.
Way to make a black man blush. You can't see it, though.
You can't see it, but
Well-
we can feel it.
Well,
It's our honor.
and a big thanks to the both of you
Yes.
giving us the opportunity and the support that you gave us the whole time to just try all kinds of crazy, risky things with a franchise that, easily a lot of people could try to be like scared to do something new with.
Great job, guys.
What a great job, everybody.
Good job.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks, gang.
Thank you.